There has to be a mate here. I mean, f3 will always be
Maybe.
good
Mhm.
because
Oh, I have something funny for you, Robert. This is hilarious.
okay,
Rook f8, rook f5, f4.
okay. So let's make a move. Rook f8. Oh, that is
I
beautiful.
mean, that's just amazing. You got to teach people about en passant, you know?
Yep, that is
You
like
can use that as an example in en passant.
that's wonderful. That's a wonderful looking tactic, and that if that happens. All right, and we're live. I'm Grandmaster Robert Hess here with Grandmaster Irina Krush. We had a great time last week doing the commentary, so we're back for some more. So, Irina, always a pleasure to be alongside you here for the commentary. What are your initial thoughts about this week's match? We know the playoffs are, the teams for the playoffs are set, not the exact seeding order, but what are your thoughts coming into this week?
Well, we've got four teams that have already guaranteed their playoff spots, but there's still a lot to be decided this week, as a couple of teams are trying to avoid relegation out of the league. And I think actually all of those teams that are in danger of relegation are coming with their strongest lineups. And I actually think that we could be seeing some upsets today. For example, when I see the matchup between Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers and Miami Champions. And actually, the Pawn Grabbers do not have their strongest team by far because neither Wander Liang nor Alexander Shabalov are playing tonight. So at first, I was pretty surprised by that. I was like, are they not that interested in being seeded number one in the playoffs? Maybe they're happy being number two because they are definitely in danger on paper tonight against Miami Champions, who've got Becerra, Kazada, and Turizaga on boards 1 to 3. So but then I realized that a Wonder Liang is actually playing the St. Louis Invitational right now that just started. So he has a very good reason for not being there. I'm not sure what Alexander Shabalov is doing, but maybe that was the best team that they could come up with for tonight. However, I do think that the Pawn Grabbers are going to have a tough time tonight. They're overrated by about 100 points on average. That's a really big difference. And Miami is coming in showing that they really want to climb out of that relegation bottom two position that they're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually spoke with Isaac Steinkamp, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers. He volunteered the information to me. I didn't even have to reach out to him. He was saying that with a Wonder busy in the tournament St. Louis, from getting the name of their free agent, the international master from Vietnam, he's also busy in the tournament. And Shaba just had another commitment that he couldn't play. So they're fielding a lineup that is much lower rated on paper, but they're trying to see who will be good for the playoffs. They have several talented youngsters there, players maybe in their late teens and their 20s, and all of whom are around 23, 2400. So they want to see who will be ready come playoff time. And what I was told by their manager was that they want to make sure that they're in the top two seeds. They get draw advantage. So if there's an 8-8 tie in the playoff, they proceed to the next round. And, it's tough to not be able to field your best lineup at the last week of the season, but they've done their job in previous weeks. And we do have games underway, Irina, from the Montclair Sopranos and the Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find them right now. I was just there.
Okay, I'm opening all of them up myself. We have Alexander Lenderman. I have a nice little graphic that I will show everybody. I'm proud to have put that in just before the show began. And here is everybody's favorite Montclair Soprano, Alexander Lenderman, username Alexander L. So please follow him. Firstly, the logo for Montclair is awesome, so if I can show it there, I'm always happy to. But Lenderman is a great player. He'll be competing in the U.S. Championship next month, and he's had a strong go of it in the predecessor of the Pro Chess League, the U.S. Chess League, and in the Pro Chess League as well. So Alex Lenderman.
You know what I'm surprised about, Robert? I mean, isn't Alex still in Iceland?
I believe he is, as is Alejandro Ramirez, who will be playing later, and some other participants. So I was surprised to see Lenderman in the lineup, but he's a team player. He always has been, and he's just, if he's stay up till 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or whatever time it is, by the end of this match, he's going to do it for his team. And here in this position, where this is his game against Daniel Gurevich, he has the black pieces here, and it's one of those weird English structures where white has this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous bishop on the long diagonal, putting pressure on the b7 pawn. And the knight on e5 can just come to d3 to blockade this, well, currently far advanced black pawn on d4, and then knight d3 is indeed played. But what you have to like about Lenderman's position is that he is a strong center, and if the move e5 can come in safely, and this bishop can find its way to square like f5, black will be doing all right. But Irina, I don't know about you, and I do want your opinion because you have familiarity with these structures. I'm liking white at first glance.
Yeah, I mean, of course, what's unusual about this position is that there's a knight on d3 instead of a pawn. I mean, the position is really complicated. I'm still wondering how white is going to get their queen side out. I guess knight a3 is essential, and knight c2. Somehow, I mean, I was always more afraid to play these positions as white than as black, with that black having that space advantage. So we'll see how Daniel manages to get that queen side out.
Yeah, it's a very good point because look how underdeveloped the white queen side is with the knight and bishop still stuck at home, and the rook, of course, can't move until those pieces get out of the way. But your idea with knight a3 to c2 is quite typical, and that allows the possibility of playing b4 as well. And not to mention, what I don't like from black's point of view is that this e6 pawn is actually never going to be too easy to play e5. First and foremost, because the knight on c6 can be captured and the pawn on e5 can be taken, but also it gives away a lot of the vital light squares in the middle. If this bishop will come to d5 if black ever plays e5. So knight a3 is a good starting point.
Maybe we can take a look at the game between Cheka and Tang.
Absolutely. That's Speed Skater and Penguin GM1. So, whoa. This pawn on g5 is not what I expected.
I wanted to go here because it's a highly unusual looking position. And it looks pretty good for white, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I'm used to this position, or a position like this, with that black pawn on g7. But with that black pawn on g5, I'm a bit concerned about the squares around the king.
It's like a queen's gambit, right? It's like a queen's gambit with black's pawn being on g5.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those positions where it's almost too advanced. However, that being said, if, let's say, white captures with a pawn on e4, which is typically what you want to do to keep this nice pawn center, if this knight ever moves from e2, the black knight can come to f4. The good thing about this advance of this g-pawn is that the bishop can easily come to g7, where it can pressurize the center on d4. So
yeah, I'm thinking that on the move f takes e4, I mean, probably black's idea is c5.
C5 is also a very nice move, saying, please get rid of your d4 pawn so I can permanently take advantage of this e5 square. And in the immediate position, if you do play pawn takes c5, of course, you can just capture back on c5 and make use of the fact that there's a pin.
You see, he kind of got afraid of that idea because the only reason not to have gotten that nice center is that undermining move c5, and black was getting pretty good control of the dark squares there.
And after this move, bishop takes e4, I want to go knight f6, but I'm concerned about dropping the g5 pawn. But what about a move like knight to perhaps c5? And the idea is that, well, I'm now putting more pressure on your bishop in the center. If you capture on g6, I'll take with the h pawn, and my king feels much safer now. I do have to, keep an eye on this pawn on g5, but that was sort of my point. I'll bring my knight over to e6, where I'll defend the g5 pawn, put a little bit of pressure in the center on d4 as well.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting move, knight c5, based on that pin on d4, on the d4 pawn. And I think the knight from e6 will do a good job defending a lot of key squares around black's position.
Yeah, I think black somehow, I agree with you. Like, the principles of chess, we're old school. We're like, well, this just has to be good for white with this pawn advanced to g5. But Tang is finding some kind of tactical complications that keep him very much in the running in this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say actually for a rapid game, I don't feel like black's position is, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable with it either, I guess I would say. Because, black has decent pieces. He's got some squares. And, yeah, I can see potential in his position.
Absolutely. So he's, he's managing the clock pretty well. At the same time, he's only down, 45 seconds, which at this point in the game is not too big of a deal, as they both have nearly 10 minutes.
I guess black has many tempting moves here. I mean, there was knight c5 that you mentioned. Maybe, maybe what he needs to watch out for here is white at some point threatening the move g4, right? If black does nothing, white might actually try to win a pawn at some point. Maybe with this move g4.
Yeah, it's a good idea because after g4, if your knight has to go home to g7, that you don't want to fianchetto your knight. So with knight b6, which is thematic in the sense that it's going for the blockade of an isolated pawn. Aaron Nimzovich would be very proud right now, right? You have an isolated pawn.
Yeah, I like that move. I mean, it's like similar to the idea of knight f6, except it doesn't hang the g5 pawn.
Yes, and the reason why I didn't first want to play a move like knight to b6 was I was like, okay, the knight, of course, is coming to the blockading square, but at the same time, I'm always concerned about this pawn on g5. Maybe I shouldn't be, but let's say this kind of capture happens on g6 and the move bishop e3 is played. This pawn on g5 quickly becomes a target that I'm not so certain with this knight coming. Oh, I guess knight c4 is in the air, so I have to take a step back because knight c4 would just be a great move for black.
The bishop on g6 is kind of an incredible piece. It's very hard to get rid of it without improving black's position.
Yeah, that's for sure. And if white has to spend another tempo playing the move b3 just to stop knight c4 ideas, then all of a sudden black is consolidating quite quickly, and the isolated pawn will become a nuisance in the endgame.
Yeah, so I think this game is going to actually be very interesting. Maybe one day, I would be interested to go back and see how did that pawn arrive on g5.
Well, I can go there for you right now. So black went g6 on move 6 to play bishop f5. This is a very common theme. White moved out of the way with queen d2, not wanting to trade the bishops, and after f3, with the idea being now I can either go e4 or likely g4 to kick this bishop. Black went g5 to attack the bishop on f4 and give the bishop more breathing room. So an interesting idea that I actually now am curious to look at for perhaps future games of my own, because it does seem like it is very adventurous, and at first glance, as we were noting, seems kind of risky, but at the same time there's some active play here that could potentially be in black's favor. So,
well, I think the move queen c2 right now that Cheka played can be a happy moment for black, because now there's less pressure on the g5 pawn. So, I mean, you could just play something like bishop g7. Yeah, he just did that without worrying about g4, because the knight could go to f6. So I'm not, I don't know. I mean, queen c2 is normal, but I could see like why black would be comfortable with that. And queen b3, again, I'm not exactly sure. Like, I mean, I guess he wants to control the d5 square. It's an interesting move.
Yeah, he's controlling d5 and also trying to keep this knight stuck at b6, at least for the time being. But I agree with you. This looks completely wrong, because now black can even play knight f6 with a tempo, right? Hitting the bishop on e4. And as we were noting before, after bishop g6, hg6, well, this improves black's structure. And now the knight will find its way to d5 in very quick succession.
Yeah, I do expect black to play the move knight f6 here.
Yeah, it seems by far the most natural looking move. And
time to get that knight off the edge of the board.
Yeah, no, I think that black is doing well to hold white and stop this d5 push. And if that's the case, then maybe d5 right away has to be considered for white. So, it could, if black does not play knight f6, d5 has to be the consideration, is my main point. But after knight f6, you do a great job of stopping it immediately because you're overprotecting the square.
Do you want to take a look back at Gurevich versus Lenderman? Because that game is developing in an interesting way.
Oh boy, look at this. This pawn moved from c4 to c5. The knight made itself at home behind the pawn.
And then knight c4. Well, that's a lot better than putting that knight on c2, I have to say.
It's certainly a lot more active, and this e5 move is not happening anytime soon, that's for sure. Black really wants to gain some more space with e5, but Gurevich is playing a nice-looking game thus far.
Yeah, I'm still kind of concerned about that bishop on a3, because there's always knight b5, and then you have to go and hide on b2.
Right.
But I guess maybe that's okay. I'm wondering, what is white's long-term plan? I mean, does he, because the move knight d6 always runs into bishop takes, pawn takes, and knight b5. And I'm not seeing white's knight getting the squares they want. So bishop b2, and I mean, okay, he has the idea of a4. So I'm kind of curious, okay, why did does Lenderman, no, he doesn't want to win a pawn. There's some move like bishop takes d3, queen d3, bishop c5. You know what, he might want that. He might want to do that, because there's knight b4 coming there, maybe some discovery, but okay, he'll have to calculate that.
And something scares me, Irina, which is an interesting idea. Something scares me about these two pieces both hanging, but your move knight b4 will do a great job of attacking the queen on d3 while simultaneously protecting this knight on b5. So that's a really nice looking tactical shot.
What do you think, Robert, about bishop b2, bishop d3, queen d3, and just knight b4 and taking on a2?
Okay, so take on d3. Look at you, getting greedy over there.
Queen f3, right? You're going to attack on b7.
Well, that does look very tempting there, right? Because the b7 pawn is very important. At the same time, I'm now again curious. So if I go queen b1 just to protect my a2 pawn, and you take on c5, if I move like knight to a5, just sort of, I guess then you'll sacrifice an exchange with move like b6 even, just to not give me the b7 pawn. But yeah, like this looks like a very nice idea, but queen f3 or queen e4, one of these two squares, should be at least.
So white played rook fe1, so kind of making a move we didn't expect. And he's, I guess, has some ideas against this e6 pawn, maybe even with some bishop h3s in some position.
Yeah, I mean, that is, of course, the drawback. But does black have time to make a move, a quiet move, like rook f to e8, and that was just played? Because the knight on d3 is hanging, which means that you can't take what looks like a free pawn on e6. And thus, now you have to figure out, do you go bishop b2 and allow this bishop takes d3 idea that you were just mentioning, or can you just kind of keep the status quo somehow and make progress? But I don't, bishop h3, it's like one of those moves
bishop h3, I was thinking we could play maybe bishop f8. And on bishop e6, rook e6, queen e6, queen e6, rook e6, and bishop d3. And we got two pieces for the rook.
Yeah, absolutely. So bishop f8 is always a good protective move, because at the end of the day, this knight is heavy.
I'm still liking black. Like, somehow I feel like black's, I mean, if you look at their pieces, it's just very harmonious.
Yeah, somehow this knight on, this bishop on a3 is a very silly looking piece. So bishop h3 indeed played, and bishop f8 I expect. So, we'll keep an eye on this Lenderman game, but there's so many games going on now because other matches have become underway between the Miami champions and the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers. That is the Atlantic Division leading Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers, I might add. So those matches are underway as well. And I believe we should have another match starting in a second, in a minute, I should say. In addition,
we got a lot of Sicilian-looking positions in the match between Miami and Pittsburgh. All right. Well, we got Hyman versus Casada.
Okay.
That was a Sicilian.
I know tennis master.
White's got a solid position here, I think. But I guess he has to go knight e3 now.
Yeah, knight e3 to try to occupy this d5 square. And something about Mark Hyman, he's a younger brother. And I was told by, again, Isaac Steinkamp, the Pittsburgh manager, that I believe his brother had a good season last year, or I'm not sure which one it was who had a good season, but they wanted to, again, he has not played all year for the most part, and so they're trying to get him some activity before the playoffs. And knight e3, as you're mentioning, is about the chess specific.
It's probably logical, but black is going to play rook c8. Actually, I think black is doing totally fine.
Should white go a5, maybe? Just to, same idea of trying to take over the d5 square.
Trying to go maybe to b6 with the knight.
Yeah, just to be a bit of a nuisance. You're absolutely right. The black looks incredibly solid. This knight on d4 is good, and knight e3 is the same idea as knight on b6, but a little bit more passive. So by playing a5, we're just trying to take over this d5 square. And for those of you who are not so familiar with the Sicilian, Irina has a great amount of experience in these kind of structures. Stopping this move d6 to d5 is often very, very important, because if black gets the move d5 in, all of a sudden you get much more space for your pieces. Without that possibility, well, then you're a little bit more cramped.
Well, I completely agree that a5 is the move to play for white, unless there's some big drawback, which I don't see, because putting the knight to b6, with a tempo and then still controlling d5 is actually a lot more precise than playing knight to e3.
Right.
Unless there was some sacrifice, like a5, rook c8, knight b6, and rook c3, which I don't really think is that amazing, but it's kind of thematic for the Sicilian, but probably not quite enough compensation for black there.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Definitely thematic, and if you can get this a5 pawn and get a pawn and a knight for the rook, then you certainly have compensation. But for the time being, at least, it looks like white would be doing quite well in that line. And what I also like about the move a5 is, well, as soon as I say a5, he goes knight e3, is bishop g5 followed by f5 is, of course, a theme for black. And you're now inviting the move bishop g5 sort of with a tempo, because you don't want to allow your pawn structure to get ruined, although it's not that bad for white in the current position. But f5 will come and things will get open.
The thing with rook c8 is that it makes it hard for white to plant a knight on d5.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to recapture properly with a knight, because c2 is going to hang.
Exactly. Right.
And if you have to put a pawn on d5, I'm sure black is fine.
Yeah, that's not what that's not what White wants to do at all. So yeah, I don't like this move knight e3. It's just way too passive for my liking. And actually, one thing that I'm wondering is if a5, maybe White was worried about this capture on c4 at some point, and then this rook coming to c8 and c5 and trying to scoop up this a5 pawn. But when you give up this control of the d5 square so easily, I think White should be good, even if you end up losing this a5 pawn. So
yeah, what's funny here, Robert, is that if White goes knight, e to d5. Well, yeah, he didn't. There was rook c8. I mean, that was the issue.
right.
So okay, so it's a little funny here. I'm not sure about Black's last move. You see, that's why I wanted to play rook c8 so much, so that c2 would be under threat. Now, maybe that wasn't such a big game changer because White could have played bishop d3 anyway.
Right.
So maybe it really wasn't changing that much. But I mean, White's going knight cd5 because they want to play the move c3 next, which of course makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, kicking that knight away from the center, opening the d file for eventual pressure on the d6 square. I think Black is doing all right for the time being, and the move f5, I mean, certainly has to be considered either now or in the very near future, because all of a sudden the lines are opening. This bishop on g5 that's what's Black's advantage. Not that Black is better here, but Black's advantage throughout the long term of this position will be the fact that you have a dark square and White doesn't. So definitely something to keep an eye on as we continue to go through these games, and we're trying to teach along the way. As St. Louis has gotten their matchup underway as well against Buenos Aires.
All right, so we got Alejandro Ramirez playing a kind of ready system against his opponent. And who is his opponent?
So,
Sharp Chess 2. That's another. I should be able to tell you when I consult my handy little sheet right here.
Is it Obregon by any chance? Or
let me see. He is playing Obregon. You're right. Very good. He's from the Buenos Aires Krakens. He's playing Obregon. It's not, this is not a name of a grandmaster that I know. He must be very young.
I don't know. I mean, I followed him week after week, but I definitely had not heard of him before the Pro Chess League. And he has a very solid formation in this game where, firstly, Alejandro Ramirez is in Iceland right now. So he's, like Lenderman, is out there playing in the Reykjavik Open and doing something crazy because they had a double round today, and now they're playing in the Pro Chess League. So they love chess way too much. Yeah, it is commitment. And in this current position, Alejandro with the white pieces, he's a tough first-round matchup against the Grandmaster. And, well, it's very early in the position.
Well, I got an interesting game for you, Robert.
Okay.
Safal Bora want to lose versus Iturizaga.
I love the username want to lose because every time I see his game, it seems like he does not want to lose because he's playing well.
This is the board 4 of the Pawn Grabbers for tonight, playing the board 1 of the Miami champions, Eduardo Iturizaga. And, Iturizaga seems to take a lot of risk in his games, and just kind of looking at that position, I don't know, instinctively to me, it just looks like White's doing well, but maybe we need to take a deeper look here. Black is obviously wanting to play rook a8 and queen a5, and could actually come out with a very nice endgame if they get that pawn back, although
very precise move.
They're not going to get it back.
Very, very precise move, because you might think, oh, I want to play bishop d2 next move as soon as my pawn's under attack. But no, the great news about this move bishop d2 is you stop any bishop f8 b4 ideas, because you can just move your queen away to d3 and pin that b pawn. And so I'm just going to put a random black move on the board. Let's say h6, whatever. Now I can plant my bishop on b4, stopping any counterplay by pushing b4 and opening another line. So all of Black's pieces are cramped in, and White has an extra pawn that is very well defended.
Isn't White just dominating here, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, this is just, Irina, I cannot think of a more beautiful position
right.
than this one.
When I saw it, I was like, well, we should take a look at this, because this seems to have gone pretty far and quite nicely for White. Well, I can say that Iturizaga, he's a very tricky player. He does play fast. So, he's going to get some resources here, but I guess queen d3 makes a lot of sense now that the e5 pawn is not hanging.
Right, because then queen e3 played, because a move like queen e3...
Bishop b4, Robert. Bishop b4 will just clamp down on that forever.
It's just ugly for Black, because I was going to say a move like queen e3 allows b4, which is all the compensation that Black needs to pretty much equalize. But by playing queen d3, note that the pawn is pinned, and so b4 is not possible, and thus, as you were noting, bishop b4... Black has no moves here. Right? This is, actually, instead of bishop b4, you could even play e3 if you wanted to just stop the threat of d4 ever happening. So, okay, but I like bishop b4. d4 is just a weak pawn for Black.
And you know what's going to happen here? White's probably going to go on the attack one day on the king side, because he can play on both sides of the board. Okay, maybe it's not so easy, actually, to go like h4, black can go h5, but white's actually has a space advantage and an extra pawn. Black's queen on a6 is terrible. We know that the queen is a very bad blockader of passed pawns, and that's why you don't want to relegate her to such a role, because she's just too powerful for such a thing.
And now this move d4 is played. So inviting the move queen e4 followed by rook takes d4. That looks like another pawn. Is there any way to defend that?
Yeah, no, that looks like another pawn. I mean, that's just hard to understand. That one pawn on d5 that was so solid. Of course, Robert, white was having some ideas of playing e4 himself, but, I don't think you needed to speed it along.
And now e3. Speaking of e4, e3 is also a good move because there's a pin to this rook on d8. And so e3, okay, maybe black will hope and pray for some pressure along the d file, but as soon as I capture on d4 and then put my queen on e4, you're not getting my pawn on d4 anytime soon. So this is just, I pressed the wrong button, but this is tragically ugly for black. And Iturrizaga has been, a stalwart for the Miami champions all season, a very strong player, but Safal Bora thus far is taking it to him.
Yep.
Okay, so some of these games from Lenderman won his game, so that is a
wow, Lenderman won already.
Yeah, didn't exactly see what happened, but
won on time and on position.
Yeah, he got a nice pawn on e2 there, and all.
Let's go to those games, right? Because they don't have a lot of time left.
Exactly. So I'm going to
Posny. Oh, this looks pretty good.
Ooh,
Posny is black against Sean Nagel.
And Sean Nagel is one of my favorite players in the Pro Chess League because he's gone 4-0 as a board 4, and he's just, he's very strong to have as a final board. And here, how many pieces is he down? He's down a knight.
He's down one piece and a couple of, and maybe one pawn. Not that much. Rook d4. Well, let's try to see, because it's obviously an attacking position for white. White's got a chance to win back a piece. I guess pawn takes b4 is possible. Maybe rook takes d4 followed by pawn b4. I don't think there's any sacrifices coming up right away for white, and I guess black just wants to go queen b4 here, right?
Right, with a nice tempo gaining move, and now the queen can even swing over to h4 to save the king if need be. So yeah, if I go pawn takes e5, does white even have a threat?
Yeah, I mean, if white plays g4, there's queen e4.
Right.
And you're in the long diagonal.
You're trying to get an attack, but unfortunately you're getting mated first. So
well, you know what? Pawn e5, there was bishop h6, I guess.
Okay. I was going to try to follow up with the queen h4 or something, or queen e4, but you're right. There's queen e4 first makes sense, just to take, queen e2 maybe?
Queen e2 is a double attack. There's bishop b3, only way to guard. And then like knight e3 could be very devastating.
Yeah, attacking the rook, attacking checkmate. If you take on e3, I take with the queen and win your bishop because of the check. Yeah, this is getting brutal. So queen e2 was indeed played. This is very bad.
Yeah, so now they just have to calculate if on knight e3, bishop takes, king h1, queen. Well, there's not much to calculate because the rook on d1 is hanging with a check. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to hang up on this game for a second and go over to the Spinal Tap versus Mauricio Flores. That's Tom Bartel versus Flores. And it's one of those games as well where white's king is very open, but black's king is not so safe either with his open g file.
Wow. And that game looks amazing, and they got no time. I love it how the sort of the avatar for Mauricio Flores is his book.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way of promoting your book, isn't it, Robert?
Absolutely. And here I'm wondering, okay, king h2. Look at that calm move by Tom Bartel. There's all this stuff happening on the long diagonal, and this h4 is a response. So there's all these things happening on this diagonal, and instead they're both kind of ignoring it. And so a move like knight g3, I mean, how do you respond?
What is going on here? Knight g3.
Just rook f2 maybe, and say, okay, if you take my bishop, then your knight gets pinned over there, but it's looking very iffy. How do you...
Who is this good for? Yeah, I was looking at knight g5, and I was trying to calculate that. So I guess if bishop takes, that's good for black, because they just played bishop f3.
So he did take, but you're right. Just after bishop f3...
looking good for black.
Looks great.
Yeah.
The problem is after queen takes e5, you have no checks on the next move besides queen to b8, which is not really where you want to go.
You have an extra exchange, and you're winning. So it seemed very exciting, but somehow it quickly got unexciting for white.
Yeah, even queen c2 check here just ends the game.
Yeah, and we do like some kind of ladder.
Yep.
mate.
Yeah, this is just queen c2, queen f2, and then rook takes h3 is how this game is going to end. So speed skater, that's Cheka. We'll go back there. By the way, Evgeny Posty won his game, and so we have this game.
Oh, Cheka was playing tank from that interesting Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, they're moving so fast, they're not even letting me catch up. Okay, wow. So what's
Cheka is winning, and he's winning on time too. So this is good. This is very important for Montclair, by the way. I mean, Montclair is struggling to keep their position out of the bottom two. So this match is very important for them, and that's why they got Lenderman playing from Iceland, and they brought out their one of their best lineups.
Yeah, and they're trying to avoid relegation. That's Montclair Sopranos because with Miami and the Chessbrahs determined to win their matches tonight, they will leapfrog the Montclair Sopranos in case the Sopranos lose their matchup. So an important win for Cheka, who is now up a queen for a minor piece. I mean, queen takes g4 here. There you go. And you didn't have to give up your queen, but the point is that you force the rook off the board, and rook against king is an easy win. So that means that right now Montclair has 3 wins to Minnesota's 1. And this is a favorable matchup for Montclair because Minnesota is one of those evenly spread teams, sort of like Pittsburgh, sort of like Montclair, honestly, because Montclair's board 4 is Tom Bartel, who's still like an IM 2360 rated player. And so I think it's a bad matchup for Minnesota, and it's unfortunate for them to face the players seeking a vengeance and players like
absolutely. Robert, Julio Becerra and Micah Brattain are having some wild position with White's king being open, and let's see if we can figure out what's going on there.
Okay, pulling up that game now. Julio Becerra. When I hear the name Julio Becerra, I don't think wild and crazy position. I think positional
wild
mastermind.
Well, maybe he's just up a piece,
Ooh. Yeah, because the bishop on h4 is hanging. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so that's it. I think he just found a way.
Although,
but actually, on queen g2, he could take on e3 and gain that piece back.
So that was a nice in-between move with queen g3 check, because if you, just to show everyone quickly, if you had captured on f1, simply rook takes f1. At the end of the day, your bishop on g3 is under attack. But instead, as we see in the game, queen g3 check, keeping the queens on board, and now the bishop on h4 is the queen and bishop protect each other.
Black is actually up a pawn. White can take it, but I'm liking black, I would say. I mean, White's king is pretty open. Of course, White probably really wants to trade queens, but he can't. That's the thing. He even can't recapture the pawn on e3, Robert, because after queen g2, bishop g5, those rooks are skewered on the c1, h6 diagonal.
Yeah, that's not going to be a happy story for White. But I was going to say, some of these positions, you can just leave that pawn there. So play the move rook g4 and say, all right,
go
you take
for an end game and put the knight on e4.
Exactly. So you go back to e7 to keep d6 guarded. I'll put my knight on e4. This pawn e3 is not going anywhere. And very soon, White can play c4, b4, c5. And this is sort of the strategic dominance of this knight over the bishop, where the bishop is a very passive piece, where the knight is a beauty on e4. So
I think so. It's very interesting, Robert. So I think here's the way we got to play as black. Okay, well, first of all, can black take on f3? I know it looks crazy, but we can just consider it for a second.
Oh, look at you.
G7, king h8, you still live. You can consider it, at least.
Well, what you're saying with the queen? Well, the bishop on h4 is hanging, which was what I was concerned about.
Oh, you're right.
I thought you were saying with the rook.
You're saying with the rook, right? Mm-hmm.
But then I was thinking rook takes h4. And we have a lot of crazy pieces hanging, where if you take my rook, I take yours, and all of a sudden, I don't know who's happy here.
Yeah.
Not to mention rook
Probably White. Probably White would be happy, right? At the end of that.
Okay, so
he's going for this, and what I was wondering here is it worth it to play the move g5? Okay, because I was going to go g5 and then rook f4, but you know what? Rook f4 was my idea, so it's actually just better to do it right away. Because now you want to take and play rook f8.
And knight e4 is impossible, because rook takes g4, pawn takes e2, and that pawn is going to become a queen very soon. Well, I guess knight g3 is the only move there, but that's not good for White at all. But that's a nice idea to keep his bishop cemented on the h4 square, and now how are you going to attack this pawn? That's a great idea. Maybe, just maybe, I can do the same thing by going rook f4, e takes knight e2, and saying I'm still just going forth with c4. I'm going to sacrifice the pawn. I'm going to try to get this f4 pawn back. And if you go g5, you're playing without a minor piece, and maybe I can just start rolling my pawns. But
so, Robert, what about on g5 here? Maybe knight e2.
So you're attacking.
Oh, g5. I'm sorry. g5 loses. g5 loses for black.
Nice tactic. Rook 1 takes h4, making use of the pin on the g file. So that's. So g5
That's
is
a
not
tricky
possible.
move, yeah.
But so, and if rook g4, pawn g4, then g5, maybe this king just goes to f3. And with the king on f3, my knight comes to e4, and all of a sudden you have a lot of weaknesses as well on black's position. This is such an interesting game.
It is, right? Because like it's like white is down a pawn, but because of this unfortunate placements of all of black's pawns on dark squares, his bishop is not very useful in this position.
Great move.
Okay,
Great move. Bishop d8, attacking his a5 pawn and saying you can't go b4 because then rook c8 comes and you win the c2 pawn. So bishop d8 is nice. I think white has to go knight e4, and this was just played. And, well, the king can still come...
But after bishop a5, you're threatening e2. There's no time for knight d6.
Well, actually, after e2, I have c3, right? Just cutting off his bishop.
Okay.
And black would love to go rook d8 and pick up d5, but after a move, let's say knight f5, I'm actually threatening knight e7 check, so I protect my passed pawn on the d file. Not to mention the b7 pawn was immediately under attack as well. So
white's going to take on d6. Maybe black can play rook f8 there. And then you're going knight f5. Is that what you were saying?
I was aiming for knight f5, yes, to cut off the rook and threaten some knight e7 check stuff. But, if you have to go e2 and I just block you with c3, all of a sudden this d pawn is looking a bit menacing. Yeah. My rook simply comes to e1 to scoop up this pawn. And, well, I don't know who's the happy party here.
All right, so he played king f3. Seems very reasonable as well.
Mm-hmm. So now maybe bishop b6.
I guess what's going to happen, maybe like rook f8, king e3, bishop b6, king e2, maybe rook f4.
Well,
yeah, it's not so clear though.
Can we start with bishop b6? I mean, that's our best pawn, is e3 pawn, and now you're inviting rook f8 with an important check. So if knight takes d6, I get this check in on f8. You can't block with the knight because I have g6, which will win your piece on the f5 square. So if you move your king, I either have rook f4 check or rook f2 check kind of ideas. And all of a sudden, black is really making some what looks like real progress. Bishop d2, I don't like that move. But okay, are there other games that are... I guess this game's also in a bit of time difficult. But I see want to lose has 12 seconds left. So I'm jumping over to that game. And all of a sudden, he looks like he does want to lose because he had a dominating position where it looked like nothing could go wrong. And all of a sudden, everything went wrong for Safal Bora, and he's just completely lost.
Oh, that's so terrible. His king suddenly became the weaker king. Oh, that's rough. He's got no time, and he is just losing. Yeah.
And there was no way for this to happen, and somehow it did happen. In a rook h3 check.
Yeah, now it's just a forced mate next move.
Yes, and resignation. Yeah. How in the world? I mean, I'm just going to scroll really quickly because we have so many other games to look at. He went e3, took the pawn on d4, and somehow made like a little bit of repetition, and there's just no way to lose this position. You're up 2 pawns. You can even put your king on e4 if you want, which I wouldn't recommend, but you can just do that, and you're never going to lose. So very unfortunate situation for him, but we have to keep an eye out and still on all the other games going on. So where should we go?
Well, I think Mark Hyman is beating Yuneski Kazada.
Okay, so that's going to be an upset. And Mark Hyman with the white pieces here. Is he down up? No, he's up in exchange.
He's certainly winning, so it's just a matter of winning those 1 games.
Yeah, and we've seen, his teammate couldn't do so, but well, what we did see is now white is up in exchange, and we were talking about this earlier, the thematic exchange sack and in the Sicilian, but right now it doesn't look like it was planned that way because white has a really amazing queen on e5 that protects c3, can go to e8 at some moment, puts pressure on this d5 square as well. And right now, the move c4, yep, there's as soon as I say c4, making use of the fact that there's a pin here.
That's beautiful. There's like no one there to protect the d5 pawn.
Yep, and this should be just, game over because if you go rook e8, I go rook d7, I just misspoke, but queen e8 check, I pick up your rook the next move. So there's nothing to defend d5. I'm going to take that with my queen, then go bishop h5, and it's just... Yeah.
So, Robert, it looks like Julio Becerra is just doing very well. That scenario that seemed likely that the knight was going to dominate the bishop, I think that's what we're seeing here. Now he's actually, he's even in pawns, but it looks like should be a good position for him.
Okay.
As long as he can somehow deal with this idea. Well, who knows? Okay, the king is coming to d6, and also black has the chance to create some kind of an outside pawn on the queen side. So maybe it's actually not so clear.
Yeah, this setup with e3, bishop d2 is really annoying because you can't move your king out to e4, where I'd love to start defending because then e2 happens. So
You know what? I'm changing my mind. I think black is doing well.
I think that's a perfectly fair assessment. And a big problem from White's point of view is getting to a6 will require this knight to go to c6 and something like to b8. And Black's strategy is actually quite simple. a5, a4, b4, a3, get a promotion. Well, okay, now it's...
Yeah, what was his point? I mean, does he want to play knight f7? Right, he must want that move. Yeah, okay, he's trying to keep it complicated. Trying to make a draw, in fact, like, king e7, knight e5 in a repetition. I mean,
Well,
that's probably what Julio is going to go for here. I don't really see. Okay, he's not. Wow.
But I don't like that.
A few seconds left, and he's trying to win. But that was not a winning attempt.
No, this is a losing attempt.
First, that's a losing attempt. I mean, king d6 and what in the world? Does he really think he's going to win like that? I don't think so.
Okay, that was an interesting move, though. Is he winning this g pawn? Because if he is, then he has no losing chances. That's the good news. The bad news is...
Yeah, but you don't know. I mean, the king, though, had ideas of coming into for the b2 pawn, and then maybe the bishop could have gone back to c3 to guard the g pawn. So I guess, I mean, he's going to have to give up that pawn.
Right.
Obviously. I would have given it up on g7, I think. Because here, White's knight has more tempos. Okay.
In fact, I think White might be the one who's better here, if anything. Because
yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't give up that pawn right away. So king d4, you got to...
Yeah, king c5 to b4, king d4 to c3, both similar ideas. I like... Whoa, don't...
Ooh, okay, so he's trying to play it safe. Okay, fine.
So he's saying king f4, king f5.
It should be a draw, yeah.
Yeah, because he's going to win this pawn back. Knights are very lousy defenders of pawns when there are other pieces on the board because they're easy to attack. In order to defend the pawn, they have to be at a square where the king can attack both knight and pawn at the same time. So just the kind of geometry allows the side defending to attack both pieces. And here, okay, it's bishop against... This bishop will just sacrifice for the pawn and make a draw. So what other games do we have going on?
We have Alejandro Ramirez. His game is getting interesting against Obregon.
Okay, so
he just played the move f4, so it's little peasant versus sharp chess.
Right, I'm just letting this game play out. Now it's a draw. No more pieces on the board. Draw agreed. Okay, so now going to little peasant sharp f4. That is some sharp chess indeed. Where's that knight going?
Yeah, I mean, there's a problem with the e6 pawn, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a...
Is he going to go to h7? Is that even a move? Is that...
that might be the only try because knight f7, pawn f6, queen f6, knight h5 comes, both defending f4 and attacking f6. And once queen e7 happens, maybe queen g6 comes.
Yeah, that's kind of painful. Yeah, that's just too painful. So, yeah, knight h7 might be the move that he doesn't want to play, but is going to have to play.
How about f takes e5, sacrificing a piece?
I mean, there's also some random move like d4 for black, but I don't think it does very much because white can play c4.
Right, but I think pawn takes e5, Irina. Just give up the piece and say it did go pawn e5. Now rook f2 check, and king has to go to h1, and then I go queen takes g5. Oh, you might have this knight e4 move. That's so frustrating.
But you can take there and on. Oh, and knight f2 protects the queen on d3.
Yes, that is so annoying. Knight e4 happens, and all of a sudden, the queen on g5, the rook on f2 are both under attack. And so what white is doing is actually the knight g is better. But the point is that once you take, and let's say queen h4, I take this rook on f2, and your attack isn't super strong when you only have a queen and a bishop going for my king. In fact, my king will have a safe haven on g2 in the near future. So, can you go e4? Maybe e4 is another opportunity for black, just to say, all right, if you want to sacrifice back now, I'll take the b2 pawn, and I don't think black has any real danger in that position, but...
yeah, I think you're going to have to go e4 here, actually.
Yeah, e4, you're going to sacrifice your knight.
Yeah, because, I mean, he obviously probably missed queen g5, knight e4.
Although, do you trade queens as white there, or do you take on e4 with the queen, saying that all of a sudden your e6 pawn is falling as well. My king's not immediately in checkmate, and the black king might be in more danger than white's.
That's interesting, right? Because, yeah, there's no queen g5.
Right. Because
I think so. I think on e4 we play knight d takes e4, pawn takes, and queen takes. Yeah, no, I definitely like that more than trading queens, improving black's rook, and
Yes.
putting it on d8 and seeing those rooks come in on the second rank.
Right, and that's
Definitely don't like that one.
somehow the king is, well, by the skin of its teeth, safe in that corner. I would be a little bit concerned, but for now it seems like all is all right. So, do we have any? Okay, so this game will be very interesting down the stretch. So it looks like Quesada lost his game against Hyman. And what else do we have going on?
We got Amont Hamilton, although that maybe is not the most exciting game at the moment. KNVB playing Banksu. That's an important match between the Montreal Chessbrahs and Webster Windmills. And this is a match where I would say Webster's definitely got the edge on paper. They got 3 strong GMs on the top boards, and both sides have a similarly rated board 4 in the 2100s. So they're definitely stronger, and I think a lot is going to depend on Amon's play tonight if he can play at their level.
Yeah, and I've left the image of Amont Hamilton because I know there are many, many Montreal Chessbrahs fans in the chat, and so I want to just let everyone know that we just want to give the Chessbrahs a little bit of love, even though they're having a difficult season. Now back to us as we go over the Hamilton game here, where Black is at first glance, I thought
fine, right?
I thought Black was up a pawn just because of the pawn structure, but it looks like the H pawns were traded. White's extra pawn, if you will, is this pawn on C3, whereas Black has this E pawn. And so, both sides are a little bit stuck. There's no real progress to be made, but I agree with you, your assessment that Black seems to be doing all right for the time being, though maybe White can unleash some sort of B4 idea. It does weaken the C3 square, but it gains perhaps some importance based on the queen side. And this knight on F can come back to F3 and maybe into E5. So, yeah, Black is so solid, though. It's hard to see a real break.
How about, is Rook H5 a bad move? I mean, what is White gonna play, like G4 or maybe Rook H5 and Rook H8?
Ooh, G4 is a very tempting yet risky move.
Very risky looking move. But all right, so he plays Queen C7, and what's his idea? Okay, he wants to go Knight E7, and I definitely like that idea. Well, he wants to go Knight E7 as long as he can get into F5, and for the moment he would be able to, because on G4 they have 4 pawn hangs.
Right.
So that's the idea behind the move Queen C7.
Although, Irina, I feel like if Knight E7 happens, maybe then Queen E5 is invited immediately. Where, I keep trying to make a move for Black. So Knight E7,
yeah.
Queen
So
E5.
I think, can we just trade there, or is it too problematic to give you that E5 pawn?
I just don't like opening the F file. You might be right that the eventual Knight F5 will be all right, but somehow the open F file scares me a little bit. Not that it's losing or anything like that, but I think that White is the one picking up momentum in a position like this. But maybe Knight H7 to G5 is possible from Black's point of view as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if the queen trade happens, Black should be safe enough. We'll see. Yeah, so he went for this move, Queen E5. I predict there's going to be a trade because I don't see how to avoid it. Right, because otherwise, G4 will just come.
Yeah, with a kind of free move. And
yeah, I mean, you could go Rook C8. I mean, it exists. You could go if you really felt like it. Maybe that's okay, because you don't have a G4 yet, because we might take and play Knight takes G4.
Right.
So maybe Rook G8, Rook C8 holding a little bit more tension is better.
The issue I have with Rook C8 is not that it's a terrible move or anything. It just doesn't have a threat, because the knight on. I guess you're trying to get the knight to F5.
Exactly. That's my idea. Knight F5, next move. Yeah.
Yeah. No, maybe that's just a good idea. And I have to really start giving it more credit where it's due. Because, if you're getting your knight to F5, you're blockading everything.
We have to calculate that, Robert. Knight F5 might not actually be possible because there's knight takes F5 and rook takes H8. And you don't have a way to recapture, right?
Ooh, so I'll make a random move like rook E2, knight F5, takes... G takes, let's say, and then rook takes H8. And the problem is, if you take with the king, you lose your knight. If you take with the rook, you lose your queen. If you take my queen as an intermediate move, now I take back and your knight on F6. So that's a very good setup for White's perspective, and that it's good of you to find that, because that's really frustrating that you can't go knight F5 and it's your whole idea.
Yeah, because that's definitely Black's idea. I mean, okay, so what are his thoughts here? If he goes rook C8, what's White gonna do? I mean, what is White's plan?
Maybe king F3.
Okay.
Because actually, maybe rook C8, king f3, then rook h5 is possible, where I'm encouraging the exchange on c7. If that happens, yeah, white can go g4, but black still remains very solid, can move the rook
Yeah, that
back.
was interesting, Robert. Yeah, rook h5, definitely. So he took on e5, and now I guess we should expect the move knight d7? Or does he, I mean, just, okay. Yeah, so he goes for that standard retreat.
I thought knight h7 was a possibility, and the reason why is just to put this knight on g5, where it's a great defensive resource, and you can't actually kick it very easily when it's on g5. But by going knight d7,
I think maybe, Robert, he didn't go knight h7 because of knight f3.
Right, and then
he wasn't actually going to get that knight to g5.
That's annoying. Yeah, it's knight
maybe
f3.
That was a problem. And white wants to go g4. That's like kind of, in a way, white's dream in some positions, right? Just to not let that knight ever go to f5, or maybe let the knight go there and then play g4.
So g4 was indeed played, and now if you're black, do you go rook h6, use your idea, and just double up on the h file? I guess what white will do is exchange one pair of rooks by playing knight f3, trade once in the h file, and then just move the rook over to say c1 or b1 and start trying to get some advance on the queen side going. But I think black is still very solid. f7 is the one real weakness, but knight f3, knight g5, rook f1 is a very long story to make happen.
It's interesting. I mean, okay, a5 is almost forced. Oh wow. So okay, knight c4.
Irina, I'm going to hop us back to Alejandro's game because there's like 12 seconds left for
Okay, let's go there.
And wow.
Alejandro's got an extra exchange, and he seems pretty safe there on the light squares. But his dark squares are not that safe.
Yeah, there are half of the board is safe, the other half looks pretty exposed. And right now, black can even start thinking of pushing the e pawn. So not only are there going to be checkmate ideas, but if black just makes a move like rook f4, then pawn e4, then pawn e3, etc. Black is the one picking up steam here. So let's say rook.
So maybe like what, rook f4 or rook f2? Okay.
So maybe queen g6, but even if trading queens, black is still doing, I think, fine in an endgame like that.
Yeah, he's got a couple of pawns. It's not so clear, but yeah, okay. The queen trade actually probably makes sense as the most solid thing to do, and he's got a trade.
So king f7 here?
King f7, yeah.
Or e4 first. But yeah, king f7 is smart because you have a safe spot on f6 for your king.
Maybe rook g4, or is that?
Ooh, rook g4 is a good idea. Then rook f2, rook g1. Why there?
Ooh, so he gave up another pawn.
That's not a good idea.
Oh yeah, that probably wasn't so good. Because that bishop is going to have a fabulous outpost in f4. Just fabulous.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like, yep, bishop f4. There you go. And now the king is safe, and black's rook is coming like maybe back to e4 and to, yeah.
Yep. No, you're predicting everything correctly here. Now all black needs to do is king f5, e4, the second pawn to e5 at some point. So go here, g5 maybe.
Ooh,
a3.
Wow. So he's just trying to play fast. Rook c2, okay.
Rook e3 will attack the house. So rook e3.
Yeah, I mean, okay, white's doing well here.
I don't know.
Well, maybe not. Okay. Who knows? Maybe it's kind of close, but okay, white managed to get 2 pawns on the queen side.
So,
and what is...
No, that's a bad move. Just rook h2 check. You just... Oh, okay. Why'd you go there?
Yeah, okay. Well, he's pushing those pawns. He's doing a good job, actually. Alejandro's under pressure here.
I thought going rook h2 check, followed by rook a2, just get the rook behind the... Okay, he's doing it now. But the idea still held where he could just get the rook behind the pawn. So now g3. Oh, boy.
Yeah, g3, wow.
Rook h2. Get that rook behind the pawn.
King f3, it's a mate. King d3 is a mate.
Oh, it's mate. Oh, he missed mate.
d2 was mate.
He missed mate.
Man.
He missed mate.
Oh, man. Missed that. All right, rook a5. Who knows? He might make it draw now. Oops.
Wow.
Sharp chess had a nice checkmate there, but he's still
rook d3.
better, maybe.
Okay, he's got too many pawns, I feel like. e3.
e3, yeah. King e4.
This king will have a nice square on f3 because this rook can block
d1.
f2.
And king, okay.
This is over.
King f3, yeah.
This is a fabulous game, though. I really enjoyed it. Ooh, rook d1 would not be the best move because then rook takes e2. So king f2 is a more precise way to do this.
Maybe, it's hard to suggest anything for him.
And there goes the rook, and then there goes queen. Bishop
so Alejandro, with a winning position, extra exchange, somehow manages to not make it out of that.
Yeah, now this is, okay, queen c5 check, pick up the c7. Okay, Mason mate. Finally, there it is. Okay, the c7 pawn is lost, and that's all of white's counterplay. This game is over.
So we can go back to KM and VB. They're in a rook and knight end game now.
Yeah, just
There was a trade on c4. You know, white did have to play that move a5 on move 31 and had to give up the bishop on d3 because of that double attack from c4. Retreated the knight, and what can we say about this position? Well,
isn't white just winning that pawn?
yeah, you want to go rook a4 and take that pawn, but are you winning that? I mean, we got rook c8 here.
And then knight d2 happens, right? So just some combination of rook a4 and knight d2 seems to just win the pawn. And the problem for black is there's no infiltration along the h-file. I would start with knight d2 to encourage that rook over there to c8, and then just play rook a4 and just double team that pawn. So
right. So on rook, yeah, that's kind of hopeless looking for black, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
that plan did not work out very well for black when he allowed that transition. I mean, yeah, he's going knight d2. He's going rook d8 with the idea knight d2, knight e5.
Oh, that's a nice little tactic.
Oh, and also he wants to go rook d5, so it's not just a cheap tactic.
It felt cheap, but maybe it's got
it felt cheap, but there's actually rook d5 coming, which is going to kind of change what we were just talking about.
I would play knight g5 here. And the idea behind knight g5 is one, to maybe go e4 to c5 or d6, but after rook d5, you can even throw in an idea like rook h1. And you bring this rook to the open file, now try to bring your knight to e4 and to f6, and you might even have a mating attack. So
yeah, I think knight g5 looks really interesting. So rook d5 and rook h1, and then, well, let me try rook a5. Let's see how that attack goes. I mean, you could go knight e4 there, right?
Well, I was going to rook h7 check and just take on f7, but...
That's also pretty strong.
Well, then you have some kind of rook.
Yeah, I have rook a2 or I have rook b5 actually, right?
Yeah. Actually, you might even have. No, I was saying knight takes e5, but it doesn't look like that actually holds. The idea behind knight takes e5 is sort of removing the guard of the rook on f7. So pawn takes e5. There's some rook takes e5, but then I thought, okay, now knight f3, rook e2, and I go king f1 at the end of the day, and I actually defend all of my pieces. So. Somehow white will remain up in knight in that kind of ending. But
all right, well, he went for it. He went for the most aggressive move.
No, I really like white's position. I feel like even if you lose this a pawn, you still have good.
Oh, absolutely. White's got a ton of space with that pawn chain from b2 to e5, and he's got the outposts. So for sure, his knight is just a lot better than black's, and black's going to have his work cut out for him not to find himself in a mating net.
Yeah, you between rook h7 check and knight e4 to f6 and then rook h7 check, I don't really know how black is planning to get out of that. Actually, maybe, rook d5, rook h1, there is some rook b5 stuff where you can play that first. The idea being that you take on b2 with check, and that's interesting.
Go for the c3 pawn?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, but maybe, are you getting out of this mating net? Like, is there actually a way after knight e4? I would sacrifice all my pawns if it means I'm checkmating you. Now, I guess black will go g5 at some point. The idea being to give the g6 square, a very important square for the king. But even after a move like g5, I'll eventually go rook h5 and take your g pawn. So there's still mating nets that exist there as well.
Yeah, now, I mean, white's move is easy. I mean, he's going to go rook h1. And black has a decision, but I feel like he's just going to play rook a5. Like, he's just going to take that pawn. Kind of seems like an essential pawn to grab. Although, rook b5 is an option.
Yes.
Might actually save that pawn for later for the knight. Maybe he will play rook b5.
Yeah, rook b5 is interesting. Trying to find the exact way for white to move forward here because these... Ooh, I don't like that decision. I feel like that's just the wrong pawn that can be captured at any moment, whereas playing rook b5, taking on b2 is a little bit more forceful, give a few more resources. Now, knight e4, what does black do after knight e4?
Okay, so he's going for the f7 pawn.
Okay.
Rook takes f7 now.
He can also play a move like rook h2, which is a really weirdly sneaky move that is going to protect the b2 pawn when I go king g3, and then I'm going to go knight e4 at any point and put my knight on f6. But I guess knight e7...
That's clever. Rook h2 is clever. I have a feeling he's not going to play that move. I mean, it's just a little bit of a subtle move to find when you don't have much time, but it's a very interesting move.
I guess black does have knight e7 to d5 there, which protects the f6 square. But yeah, rook f7 is, of course, the obvious move, if you will. And even knight e5, I guess I can ignore it by playing rook takes b7 and then taking on e6. And I'll say, well, you know what? We'll have an even material in the endgame but I don't see how black is going to survive because all your pawns are, they're all over the place. Something like this, black has these really ugly pawns that are kind of exposed on both sides of the board. So let's see, d5.
So he's kind of counting on rook takes b2 here and just having a lot of pawns versus the knight and having the a pawn, which might be hard to stop because the knight is not very good. I actually think black is doing okay here.
Really? I think it's just losing. I think it's rook c7, good starting move, and after b5.
Okay.
So
b5, rook a7.
Well, you go rook a7, rook c6, one of those moves, but I just want to get this g-pawn because the way white is going to win this game is by just throwing this g-pawn down the board. And so a move like knight e5 to start with, or maybe starting with, but you're going with my c3 pawn. I guess you're right.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many pawns that white's got, so I...
Well, that's maybe a nice starting point.
5.
So
and
e5.
no reason to give up that pawn for free.
Knight either e6 or c6. Where's this knight going? Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, rook c2 makes sense. Get as many of these pawns.
So do you go knight e7 to d5 and protect c3, or okay, you just took the pawn. So now knight g6.
That's fine. Well, one second. What about rook g3 here?
Then knight back to e5.
Oh, knight back to e5.
But I mean, at some point, rook g3.
Okay. So that's not necessary. Yeah.
Ooh,
pushing the pawns and just b3.
Then rook takes.
Might as well push those.
Is b3 rook takes c4? What's happening there?
There's b2. There's b2 there, Robert.
Oh, that's not good.
And rook c1, so that's better for black. White's got to go rook b7, right? That's what he did.
Okay, so the good news for white is after g5, rook b8 to b7 is like almost a repetition. So here playing, do you play knight? Okay, but knight takes c4.
Yeah, going for the draw. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, Aman also got himself down like 2 seconds on a couple moves there, but this is just.
Yeah, this is a draw. Rook a4 and king e2.
Yeah, this is elementary. Okay.
Wow, he definitely had him on the ropes, but at the end you could feel that, I guess the reason I thought he was doing okay is obviously not because I had any great calculation in that position. Just like, the knight is just so bad on those open positions. It's not like a bishop, right?
Right.
It's so slow, and you just saw how ineffective it was, and it took a few pawns, but just couldn't protect anything, and black sort of made it look easy, to just push his queenside pawns.
And the Chessbrahs were down 2-0 before this game, so they certainly they really wanted Aman to get that full point. Now they're down 2.5.
Yeah, Li Kwang Liam, he won as always, right?
Yeah.
And how about Nizhnik? Did he win as well?
He was playing, who was he playing? He was playing Hansen maybe? So I don't know what happened in that game. I can try to pull it up.
That's okay. Why don't we look at Lenderman versus Sean Nagel? Well, I guess Lenderman is winning on time. He's also winning on position.
Okay, I'm trying to, there, I found that game. Oops, I'm closing out all these old games as an ambulance goes by in the snow for me. Okay, here we are. Oh,
Black's king is not too safe, and Queen e7 is a threat.
Okay, just pull this up real quick.
This looks pretty bad for black.
Yeah, wow. So Nagel is down material, as you mentioned. The d5 pawn can't be captured because there are pins going on.
Let's forget about that game, Robert. It's not that interesting compared to Posny versus Gurevich.
Okay, that sounds
that's the other game in that match.
Uh-oh.
And Posny's got the bishop pair. He's even on pawns, but there's an imbalance. Open files on both sides of the board, opposite sides castling. Who's better here? I'm guessing white. Yeah, white's definitely better. He's better on the clock, and now we can see why, because his position is also much easier to play. I mean, the bishop on f7 is just not as good as the bishop on g3. That's what's going to decide this game.
So I'm curious if Posny wants to play bishop e5 and rook takes c6 if queen takes h4. So it's saying, I'll give you my h-pawn if I get your c-pawn, and whose attack will kind of rage more powerfully and more quickly. But I don't know. I am a bit hesitant to give up this h4 pawn, because then all of a sudden there are going to be ideas with just moving the queen, and then so for example bishop e5, queen h4, rook takes c6. You're coming right down for c7, but immediately a move like queen g4 followed by h4 and things like that are starting to open up the position potentially in black's favor. So
yeah, I guess black really wants to play, I don't know, the move rook g4 at some point. It's hard to see his other attacking ideas other than that move.
Yeah, that's kind of like a one-trick pony in the rook on g4, because as soon as I move my bishop away,
But it could be a successful pony.
that's very
Right.
true.
I mean, if you play f4 and shut in that bishop on h2, we may start singing a different tune about this position.
No, you're right. And I was thinking that if the rook g4, I could have bishop e5, and then your queen and rook kind of trip on each other with the queen takes h4 ideas.
Yeah, queen takes h4.
Yeah, so I would have to find a useful first move to allow rook g4 in the first place. Like, is there a move that so rook e3 to f3 or something like that? Will that somehow improve white's position in a way that stops f4, and the rook maybe cover the third rank? And that rook on e3 can also swing over to b3. Actually, wow, rook e3 is a good multi-purpose move. Mind you, f4 is not possible because rook f3 pins it immediately, or bishop takes f4 is possible with rook e8 check ideas, opening up the queen to the f4 square. But more importantly, this rook actually is very quickly swinging over to the b3 square and queen b4 to follow suit. So rook c5, a move that I understand. He's trying to go rook c1 and then take on c6, but I think rook e3 over to b3 was quite an interesting idea. And okay, rook g4 now also attacks this d4 pawn, so bishop e5.
Yeah, so I was wondering like what the idea was of this rook c5 move.
I don't get it.
Okay. So he just wants to play rook c1, I guess. How's that going to work? Okay, queen a4.
But Irina, the reason I don't like it is because you're going to play bishop e5 almost no matter what after rook g4. So you could have had a more useful move, because if the next move is rook takes c6, it's almost like black got two moves in a row, because you had to waste a move to go rook c5 and then take on c6. I just feel like a move like rook e3 beforehand or something of that nature would have given you an extra sort of move before going as bishop e5, take on c6 plan. But maybe I'm wrong.
So what's going to happen here, Robert? Queen h4, rook c6, right? I mean, that's probably Posney's idea. There doesn't seem to be a sack on g2. The funny thing is that black has two very good pieces and two very bad pieces.
Right.
And that's maybe what's going to make his attack not work out on the king side, because bishop on f7 continues to be horrible, and the rook on d7 is solely in a defensive position. So very hard for black to make threats, even if perpetual check with such bad pieces. So actually, I think Posney is still got everything under control. I mean, his next move is probably just rook ec1, although he could definitely take a look at queen a5.
So queen h3 for black perhaps is the only way to sort of play, because just try to checkmate in one, but also then follow up with rook g6, trade one of the attacking pieces away, and hope to open up a few of the light squares around the king. f4, well, I was about to say that move, and f4 cuts that bishop off in the defense of the g3 square. So that's a pretty decent looking move. I guess f3 is possible from black's perspective, but f3 is not typically a move you'd love to play, but at the same time it does.
Isn't queen a5, you're gonna go what exactly? I mean, you don't have some perpetual there, do you? Like rook g2, king g2.
No, I don't.
I don't know, f3, king f3, queen g4, king e3, queen e4. I mean, I run to d2.
Right.
So I guess queen a5 would be the move I'd play here if there's no sack on g2 that gives you perpetual.
Yeah, and if there's no sack that gives you perpetual, you're just completely and utterly hopelessly lost. So maybe queen a5. I really don't see a move. I was going to suggest something, and I have nothing for you. Yeah, that just looks like it's over.
Yeah, that just looks good. I mean, you don't need the queen on d2 anymore. So what I like about queen a5 is that on rook c7, they can't even go like, king d8 or something. Like, they can't run like that. Yeah. Okay, that's what I meant. Like, I preferred queen a5 over rook c1, although this might be, just very similar.
Yeah, but maybe queen h3 here is possible. You better be careful from white, because you take on c7, that's just one pawn.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Like, the king goes to d8. It's not over. So that's why I didn't quite get that move. Okay.
Okay, so g3 would be a tragic mistake from white, because queen h3 delivers mate next move on g2, so don't do that. And bishop to g3 is probably just good, but then black can take on g3, and then maybe take again, and that way your c7 pawn is defended. And now black actually has hope to survive a position like this.
So you think on rook c7, he's playing rook takes c7 first, right?
Yeah, takes, king d8. And how do you get out of this? Because bishop g3, as I noted, I can try to take it, but actually bishop g3 now is very strong, isn't it? Yeah, it's just good.
So you want to just go bishop g3 there. Yeah, simple.
Yeah, so take on c7 and then play bishop. Okay, bishop
Yeah.
g3 first I don't like, again. Played with just over 2 seconds left. Gurevich is speeding it up here, but now black has decent chances to draw this game. If you take on f2 or g2, whatever, you're taking, point is you're taking and trading the queens. If this bishop finds its way to e4, then all of a sudden black gets some active play, and it's very difficult for white to really team up and attack the black queenside pawn. So I do not like what Posty decided to do here.
It's a bit too technical. He didn't have any need of this. I agree. I mean, I'm sure it's completely winning still, but it's just not winning in a pretty way like it could have been.
Right. So what's the score right now? So the Sopranos are up 4.5, 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
And so they need
they're really off to a good start, and trying to hold on to their position number 5 in the league.
Right, and it's because Lenderman won again against.
Yeah, he's been a stalwart player for the team.
Yeah, he's the hero they both need and the one that they deserve. So he's just been kind of everything that Montclair could ask for. Ooh, okay. So now bishop coming to e4 or not. Thought that bishop was finally finding its way, but now the king might find its way in instead. Good move, rook c3 check.
Yeah, probably king d6. Okay, so now he wants to go bishop g6. I mean, probably just rook c5. Okay, I can't predict anything. I thought rook c5, rook a5. Try to win a pawn. Maybe it was a plan.
Well, you can predict. You were probably suggesting better when you played.
Yeah, maybe rook h3, bishop e8. Okay, well, he's playing differently.
Well, that can't be a great move because now. Is he trying to make some kind of weird, like, 8? I thought he was going to at some point try to go c6 and then.
Yeah. I think that was.
Because now rook c5 just wins immediately. Rook c5, you take a5, you're past a pawn. Well, maybe it's still not so easy. Black will go c6, king c7, bishop d1. Yep, good starting move. And if you take bishop b3, black will go c6, bring the king over to c7.
Yeah.
So I guess what you do is go king h4 and just come after this h pawn. Look at Postny's time, by the way, down to 20 seconds himself.
You know what he should do here, Robert? Maybe rook c1 and then like rook b1 to cut.
Yeah.
So a4 first. Push the pawn as far as you can, right?
And rook b1.
And rook b1. So cut the king. Okay, very nice. The bishop will go to e2.
So you got to go c.
Point.
I thought he was going to c5,
yeah,
d4.
he's zugzwang, right? Rook b2. He can't do both things.
Bishop b5. Bishop b5.
Oh, okay. You're still in the game.
Nah, it's got to be losing.
G5. King g5 is okay. Rook a2. And rook a1. I think it's still winning.
So is black trying to just go like bishop b5, bishop c4 and do nothing? Is that sort of the...
Yeah, it's hard to believe that. I mean, because no, the king will just eventually go to b4, right?
Right. So
the king will go to b4 and the rook will come around and do some damage from the back. Yeah, this is not good anymore. And by the way, we can even in some positions give up the a5 pawn, right? I mean, for that kind of, once the king's on c5, there was this idea of rook a1, bishop a4, rook a2, zugzwang.
King a6, rook takes b5, game over. Take
it.
Right now, rook takes b5 is over.
I think he'll take it. He's calculating. He's like,
there it is. Yeah. King takes, king b4. You win this one, you go win that one, and then this pawn is going to become a queen. So that was a nice ending by Postny. So where do we go now?
He made it exciting.
So we have Nizhnik is playing. That is for the Webster Windmills. Lequang Liem is playing Amon Hamilton. So that might be an interesting. I'll pull it up for now. I think it's very early in those games, so we have time to get back to them. Is there any games that are time?
Iturizaga, his opponent has 30 seconds. Maybe we can just take a look at that.
Ooh.
Mark Hyman has 30 seconds against Iturizaga, who got very lucky in his first game. And here, Iturizaga doesn't have a good position again, I think.
I'm with you.
Bishop on g2. I mean, okay, his queen is active, yeah. But still, you would think that with a knight on d4, black would be doing totally fine here.
I can't explain for the life of me the move queen c8 giving. Oh, I guess the a6 pawn was under attack, but who cares with that a6 pawn?
Yeah, I know. Okay, he couldn't go queen b7 because queen d8 was mate.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so there was some reason for him to do that, but okay, yeah, it was definitely weird. It wasn't perfect.
Queen b3 traps his knight. Bad.
This was so bad. This is why you need outposts.
Oh.
This is why you need outposts. And he swindles his way again.
This is just not good. I mean, Hyman won his first game against Unievski Quesada, so it had an upset, and had a great position at the start here. Maybe it wasn't as great as we thought because all of a sudden Black's pieces were a little bit awkwardly placed, but it had to be good. And so now Iturrizaga takes his second win of this match. And there are other games. Julio Becerra is playing.
Shetty is doing very well against Julio Becerra.
He's not doing well on the clock, but he is doing well in position. And here, White is up two pawns. I thought it was just one. Yeah, 2 pawns up. That's
2 pawns, and the knight on d4 is a wonderful piece, protecting b5 and stopping the c pawn. So, yeah, this should be not too difficult for White to win.
Lots of 6-ranked pawns under attack. The king can just go to f3. Maybe White can start with g4, h4, king g3, and just start trying to make a pass pawn over there on the king side. Usually you want a second pass pawn, not just the one on b5.
Yeah, he's going to take on g6 now, I think, and I think that should be fine.
So
I guess there's knight b5 or something, but should be able to stop.
Just rook back to c6. Oh, I'm blundering. You can't go rook back to c6. Rook to b6 maybe?
Look at him. He's being very careful. Okay, that's fine. G4 is fine. Improve the situation on the king side. A knight b5, you just go rook c4.
Exactly. It's a trade that very much helps White.
Yeah, so I like the move g4, like a calm move. He doesn't want it to get too crazy. Right now he'll probably, well, he could play like h3 and just see what Black does.
Yeah, or maybe start with king g3.
King f3 might be more useful, right?
Yeah, either king g3 or king f3. And I want to go king g3 so I can go f4 and just start pushing my pawn. But maybe I have to be a bit cautious before that because my e3 pawn could be a target. But yeah, this has to be winning for White, but the time situation is making me a bit nervous from the pawn grabber's perspective. When he does grab the pawn, knight takes b5 runs into rook to b6.
Rook to b6, right.
And so knight b5, rook b6, c3, it's not quite far enough because the point is after c2, it looks like I can't catch your pawn, but rook d6 check and then rook back to c6 forces your king away to say e7, and then rook c6, I get behind your pawn and stop you, and I have way too many pawns for Black to end up being okay. Okay, and this happened, rook b6. And
so you're saying what's going to happen here in the move c3, Robert?
Knight takes b5. Just take it. And after c2, rook d6
check.
Okay,
your rook is, it's the check on d6 and rook c6, yeah.
Exactly. So you force the king away.
That's a good find for White. That's very important.
And this is just over. Now White's up 3 pawns because Black will take the knight on b5. White will take the pawn on c2. 3 pawns up. I think Attilio Shetty can handle that. And Julio Becerra goes down.
I have to say Pittsburgh is doing amazing. I mean, because I was afraid for them at the beginning of this match. They are holding their own, maybe even more. I mean, this game just ended, so maybe they're actually going to overtake the Miami champions. They were doing 3.5 to 3.5.
Wow, 4.5, 3.5 at Pittsburgh's fair. Are you kidding me? So Isaac Steinkamp looks like the genius of the century. He told me that he thought his current lineup would still be very competitive with Miami, and his team has proven him right.
I got to tell you something funny, Robert. There's this conversation in the chat where someone said, "Sounds like Irina is a coach," and then in the head, then there's this. Someone says, Irina teaches me and my friends, so she is a coach. And I just wonder, who is that?
Well, fortunately in chess, you can multitask, or I say perform multiple professions. So you can play, you can coach, and do commentary, all 3. So you do hit the trifecta in that regard. But it's great to see your students watching, and I hope they're enjoying the broadcast. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I encourage my students to just kind of do some chess immersion.
Yeah.
And that's what this is like, following all these great games and, getting some explanations on them. So what do we have right now? Who is in time trouble? We got Francisco Rambaldi versus Maxi Perez.
Ooh, I love Maxi Perez. He feels like he's winning every single week. So that's fine. I see you. Maxi P.
Yeah.
And
he is not doing like amazing. I mean, White's definitely better. White's just up a pawn.
Yeah, Maxi, you're letting me down here. Yeah, king h6, I guess. Yep. So the good news is for Maxi Perez that this knight on d5 doesn't really have a great future. I don't really see a square that is so good for it. The d5 square we would hope would be good. I guess if it can find its way to d4, then it has. If you could just essentially transport this knight 1 square back to d4, White would be extremely happy. then just push your c-pawn and all is well in the world. However, as soon as you move your knight, the black rook comes down to d2. So if you go knight c3, oh, I guess rook d2 runs into knight takes e4. So maybe knight c3 is just good then.
Robert, let's go to Nizhnik versus Saric.
Okay.
From the match between Webster and Montreal.
Okay, I know Nizhnik's handle is just his name, so here we are. Nizhnik and Saric.
Right.
Wow. So isn't black doing... I feel like his bishop on h8 is just such a monster that black should be
amazing, right? Mm-hmm.
And I have this really lame...
bishop on c2 is terrible. And that diagonal, he's going to suffer, actually. It looked like white was putting pieces into the onto the queen side to attack, but it looks like black is going to do all the attacking.
Yeah, the good news is for this queen on a4 is that there's a f4 square for check if need be, if there's some kind of in-between move necessary. So for example, rook b3, defending the b2 square, attacking the knight on d7, because the queen still is open there. Knight b6, maybe I have this queen f4 check move just in time, and then I can go d6 next, and all of a sudden white's counterplay is coming pretty quickly within the form of that passed d-pawn.
So what are you thinking white should play here, Robert?
I think rook b3 makes sense. Or maybe c4, is that your...
c4, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
So maybe I have to go rook c3 instead of rook b3? Is that what you're telling me? So rook c3, stopping your mate, attacking your knight on d7.
Okay, rook c3, yeah, that makes a threat.
I still love black's position, to be fair. But then queen d6 is also a good move, just blockading the pawn and opening up that bishop on h8 again.
Yeah, rook c3, I guess knight b6 is also possible.
Yeah,
I mean,
queen
I guess
f4
there's
check.
Queen f4 or something, yeah.
My only counterplay is this d-pawn.
White's worse, but they're still in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, just king a7 or something. Queen f4, king a7.
No, black is doing very well there. I'm just trying to stay alive.
Rook e2 is going to come down eventually.
Yeah. No, you're right. I have this really lame Justin Bieber reference. You know the song? I mean, there's a song, Sorry, where it's like, is it too late to say sorry? And is it too late to say Saric feels like just the natural progression of that song. So.
No, that's funny. Somebody, I think it's maybe Yasser. Is that GM Yaz? Is that Yasser on Chess.com?
It must be.
Well, he's suggesting something interesting with black having this idea of b5 and c4. Like, so for example, maybe rook c3, b5, just defending the knight in that aggressive way and pushing those pawns actually looks really good.
Yeah, so you have to be careful before making an idea like that, but it looks, even b4 is a threat with this queen and bishop launching down this diagonal. So of course
What's the point of this? Now king a7.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
King a7, and why did he throw in that check? Okay, we don't really know, but yeah, I know I can totally see black playing the move b5 somewhere.
Is he
His king
playing?
will be very safe on a7.
Is he playing queen c1 next? Is he just like really super passively defending, but then rook e2?
I doubt it. I can't see him playing queen c1. I mean, maybe. I'm thinking more like rook c3. Like I don't think he's going to be playing queen c1. It's hard to imagine.
I hope he doesn't, because that would really hurt my heart, seeing a chess move like that. But
yeah, it's not how you want to treat your queen.
King a8.
Okay, he went to a8. I don't know why he's going. I mean, maybe he wants to move the c-pawn and doesn't want any checks on that diagonal. All right.
Because if the king were on a7, maybe some queen d4 check where the queens get traded off. But yeah, now it looks still.
I like the move b5. I mean, it looks just like wow, what a move, huh? Quite a suggestion.
Yeah, b5 looks very tempting. And I don't really see any way for white to deal with this in a meaningful way. And
yeah,
also,
white can't even trade queens. Like, he doesn't even have well, queen g5. Well, yeah, I don't think he's got those kinds of ideas.
Let's play b5, queen g5. If you're black, you probably don't even want to take the queen. Because I would say if you take the queen and take on c3, well, I think, of course, black.
Yeah, white gets a bit of compensation. I mean,
yeah,
a strong knight on g5.
Yeah, but not something you would like to see from the white perspective. So, yeah, this one's bad. Okay, I see Rambaldi is 9 seconds. I'm going to go over there. That means that whole match. Well, actually, he's just down 7 minutes in the clock. So Rambaldi, no, he's not down a pawn. He's just down a lot of time. So rook e7 here should just make a draw.
Oh wow! So he lost his extra pawn.
He lost his extra pawn. He's also just.
Yeah, he shouldn't have any trouble making a draw here. I mean, yeah, of course, black has a lot of time, but Okay.
Now,
H4. What does that do? That loses a pawn.
so now
Oh no.
now white's just
Yeah,
winning.
what in the world was that? Why did he just give up a pawn like that?
That
Oh,
was
that was bad.
that
And
was
now he might lose.
he will lose. So rook H G4, put your king on G3 and then go F3, and then just you win that E pawn as well.
Yeah. Ooh, this was bad. And the king on G5 is in this mating that it's horrible. By the way, I think he might mate him, Robert, rook H8 and H4.
In fact, he could have done that last move. Yeah, wow. So rook F5 is like the only idea. Okay, I guess if rook H8 will be met by rook F5.
Right.
But still, this is so terrible.
Yeah.
There has to be a mate here. I mean, F3 will always be good. Because
I have something funny for you, Robert. This is hilarious.
okay.
Rook F8, rook F5, F4.
Okay, so let's make a move. Rook F8. Oh, that is beautiful.
I mean, that's just amazing. You got to teach people about en passant,
Yep, that is like
use that as an example in en passant.
that's wonderful. That's a wonderful looking tactic, and that if that happens, oh, he went rook E7, and now it's over. I mean, so Maxi Perez an extra 7 minutes was totally fine in an even rook ending, and then decided just to hand the game away to his opponent. So Buenos Aires, I assume they're going to get relegated, but they have a chance. They had a chance at this matchup. They need to win, but this is not helping their cause. So not good at all.
Now there's no defense against mate, right?
Yeah, there's not. You can sacrifice a rook on H7 and then.
Wow. Well, that was really, that's sad for Buenos Aires, of course. Very nice. It's like a free point for the St. Louis Archbishops.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Because he had so much time. He had 7 minutes. The guy had like 7 seconds, and to take that equal ends game and just throw it away like that, I mean, that was kind of careless.
Oh, extremely. I mean, just really bad decision making over there. So who else is playing in this? We've so many games that are possible to go at. I'll put up the Lequang Liem game as I look through other games as well to get in here. Who else can we see? Lots of.
So, we have here in the audience, Robert, we got Rochelle Wu, one of the best young girl players in the U.S., and she's saying hi to us. So, hello to you, Rochelle.
Rochelle Wu is like, I've seen her play, and she's both simultaneously adorable and super dangerous. Like, she is not afraid of anybody. I think she played next to me in the North American Open against Rui Feng Li, and she was just like chewing gum and just like, not afraid. A lot of respect to her. She's an up-and-coming player, very talented, and I'm glad to see her watching our commentary.
Yeah, it's good. We got a friendly audience tonight.
Yeah. Also, I pulled up the game between Eric Hansen and Talia Cervantes Landero because, Talia has been a much improved player. She's been gaining a lot of rating points in recent months. She's around, I would say, 2250 USCF, and she's playing Eric Hansen really in a tight matchup right now. Her knight on B5 is excellent. That's Eric Hansen versus Dishonor on your cow, I believe is Talia's handle.
I will be right back,
okay.
Robert.
All right. And in this position here, as we pull up Hansen's game for all the fans of the Chessbrahs, the point is that where Eric has his trouble is this D4 pawn. The rook on D8 is doing well to stop it, and now this move E6, this pawn is not pushing to D5 anytime soon, and Black's plan is reasonably straightforward. Rook D7, you can even go rook D5 to trade the rooks, or just keep your rook on D7 and say, I'm going to attack your pawn on the D4 square. So rook D7 is probably met by queen C4, which is responded to by rook D5, and I do not see how you're going to get to this E6 square. Not looking. H4. Okay. So the point is that now Black might not have many useful moves. So rook D7 is a good move, because if queen C7 would have been a bad blunder to queen takes B5. And note that the queen on C7 is hanging behind the pawn on C6, and thus that would be winning for white, a free piece. Rook D7, king here, and now queen D8. Very nice. So putting all the pressure in the world on the D4 square. And look at Black's setup here. You're gonna take, if you take on D5, I take back with the rook. And this blockade is looking excellent. I mean, Irina, I see that you're back and happy to rejoin us here, but Irina, isn't Black just incredibly solid and have nothing?
No, I mean, this is not the kind of position Eric Hansen was dreaming about getting. I mean, he hasn't used much time, right? So he's only used about 5 minutes to get to this position. That might be the critical thing here, but definitely black is super comfortable.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up Eric Hansen's kind of an image of him that we put together just because, well, we're a big fan of Eric Hansen's. He does a lot for Chess.com and particularly for the Chessbrahs. So it's good to see Eric playing, and hopefully he can get, for his fans, he can get it together because at the moment it's not great. So let's get back to us.
Yeah, it's hard to even find a plan for white.
Yeah, you're just sort of shuffling.
He actually can't move anything. I mean, this is why you can't, you can't give your opponents all the outposts.
Right, and I'm going to go over.
No.
We'll come back to this game, but Amon Hamilton's under a minute against Lequang Liam, and Lequang Liam sacrificed an exchange and has an attack going. So I think Amon's position is in trouble here. Just bishop takes c6.
White's just going to take on c6, play queen h8, take on g7. The king is perpetually weak.
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, just take here.
Unless he doesn't want to take, unless he wants. I mean, he doesn't have to. He can look at the move rook d1 for sure. Very interesting, by the way. I don't know. Play for the attack.
I like that move, rook d1.
You don't have queen e5 there because there's a funny little checkmate with like on d8 after bishop c6 and queen h8. But okay, he goes for the simple move, and now I think he's just gonna queen c6, and okay, he can play queen h8. I think that makes sense. Yeah, okay, he goes for this move, and he's not afraid of the move g6. He's not afraid. Now why?
So
I mean, he's still happy there. I guess it's just because he just likes this position.
How many pawns is he up? Two whole pawns. So it's not exactly. Ooh,
yeah.
So now rook d7 is a possibility. And the rook d7 not only is threatening checkmate with queen h8 mate, but also attacking this pawn on a7. Note that this pawn on a6 is very strong. But okay, this is clearly the preferable one.
Yeah. Well, if you take a look, I mean, Lequang is just cleaning up, right? I mean, he has barely used any time, and is winning on time and on position. So far, no one's really been able to resist him.
Yeah, and Lequang is what, 14.5 out of 16 coming into this week or something ridiculous. And I guess with the 2 wins now, he'll be up to 16.5 out of 18, which is, I mean, that's just a ridiculously strong performance. And here, queen c2, it's too little too late. Just a simple move like queen f6 check, or pretty much anything. As long as you don't blunder your rook, should be good enough. Rook d4, threatening to get your rook into the game. The worst thing that white could really do is allow some sort of queen c1, queen f4 thematic perpetual. With the queen on g5, it's not happening.
If you look at the scores, actually Montclair is kind of dominating Minnesota, and I think they are going to continue their domination. I mean, Posny has a wonderful position against, I think, Andrew Tang.
Okay, I'm going to find that game. I found it. Okay. Ooh, that knight on c5. He
doesn't even have the move e5 anytime soon. I mean, because there's like knight d3, and I mean, I guess is white. Oh wait, I'm sorry. He's down a pawn, so that's important to say. He's kind of got some domination, but he still needs to recapture the c7 pawn.
Right, and this will be a kind of a long struggle, but I mean, even white's next move can be rook c to b1, offering an exchange of the active black rook. Well,
the problem is, Robert, that he just played rook f to c1.
Well, I'm going to chalk that up to being a mouse slip, because rook f to b1, I don't even... Does black have any moves?
Yeah, that was really weird that he didn't do that, right? I agree. Like, I mean, in these positions, you want to trade the active rook on b2, and that's really sad if it was a mouse slip, because, I mean, what was black going to do there? He'd have to take and play, like, bishop d7 and just give up the pawn on a6.
But you can't even go bishop d7.
About what I'm seeing here.
Because back rank checkmates exist. So, bishop d7.
Oh, he doesn't even have that. Yeah, okay. So
hideous.
So that would be shocking if he actually mouse slips in such an important moment.
Yeah, I am joking, but I don't understand the move. And just for the record, Amon Hamilton did lose his game to Lequang Liam. He threw in the towel. He had no time left. His h-pawn is just rolling towards promotion, and just nothing that black can do.
Oh, let's take a look at Saric versus Nizhnik. Now, this is super exciting.
Okay.
Saric is up a knight, and he is getting threatened with mate right now.
Rook a1 mate. Yep.
Is he winning or is he losing? Well, probably he's not winning.
Yeah, I don't think he's winning. That feels pretty safe to say. Now, I'm tempted to try to throw
Mostly
him.
because none of his pieces can move, right, Robert?
Yeah, the rook on
I mean, the
d4 is
knight on
stuck.
f3 and the rook on d4 can't move. Okay.
Oh, king d1.
Look at how black is nimbly escaping from that king.
Oh,
Just taking more and more stuff. And even rook f3 could be an idea somewhere, but I mean, probably not yet. But black has
yeah.
a lot of extra pawns.
And too many back rank threats between rook f1 and rook a1 and just in the rook on
Yeah, right
d4
now rook
being
f1 is the big one.
king. Look at this king just rolling over here. This cannot be good. What is this? Rook a to e2 check, king d1, rook e4 looks very nice considering the rook on c3 is hanging behind. Okay, maybe that's unnecessary. But I'm trying to somehow break open the position so my queen can get to this rook on c3, and this rook needs to move. So rook takes f3, as you suggested, is probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little sad for black to go for that end game.
Yeah,
So what's
especially
gonna
with that d
happen?
pawn.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit too technical. What
Okay.
other
So
ideas does he have? He's got moves like, I don't know, g5, but maybe he should take more pawns first.
rook takes g2, just keep getting greedy.
I mean, does white, well, he's not going to have maybe such a big threat after rook g2.
Right.
So maybe that's going to give white a chance to, capture on c4, for example.
With which.
Yeah, I mean, maybe rook dc4, maybe rook dc4, Robert.
Well, rook dc4, I was looking at queen takes c3 check.
And then there's
There's lots
rook
of mates.
a1 mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mates this way, or if your king goes to f1, my rook comes to mate you on f2. So you got to be really careful. I mean,
So
you're
actually,
right.
wait, Robert. So, no, I'm still trying to get it. No, if you go rook g2, rook dc4, queen c3, rook c3, how does it go?
So bishop takes c3 to check.
Queen's. Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I was thinking the queen was protecting the c3 square, but it's not. Okay.
Yes, no.
Yeah, that's what I was
Unfortunately not.
seeing. Okay, so this move is a bit of a surprise.
Whoa.
Obviously for Sarich, who's got no time, it's a little tough to deal with that.
Yeah, maybe the queen's coming to a5 now as well.
A5, that's his idea. It's actually a very cool move. Really nice.
Yeah, that's a beautiful concept, honestly.
Yeah.
So queen a5 now is pretty good.
Yeah. I have to say, I've often it felt like I've overlooked these, maneuvers that are just kind of, you're going seemingly the opposite way to the one that you should be, right? It's
Yep.
hard to see that retreat. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite puzzles is from a game between Lucknow and Jabawa that it requires a interesting backwards move from like 12 years or 14 years ago. I don't remember how many years ago the game is, but it's like those are often the hardest moves to find. And I've given that puzzle to camps I've taught where the average rating is like 2,100, and I've given them an hour and nobody finds the right move.
Wow.
So it's kind of funny how, like
Yeah.
you said, queen d8, just putting your queen on the back on its starting square is the way to go. Eric Hansen won his game, by the way. I don't really know what happened, but all of a sudden he's up like 7 pawns. And so he must have broken through. Let me just try to find where this happened because, okay, I know the other game is 2 seconds. So I'll just stick
so
here
he's
for
going
now. I'll stick to this game until Sarich loses just because.
Oh, okay. So he just used a simple move to win back the piece. But is he going to win the game? Okay. Yeah, I think he should.
So,
Because white's got no threats at all.
so queen
Yeah,
a5
so now
here.
queen a5 just comes out and he wins. Well, that was a nice game by Nizhnik.
Yeah, beautiful. And not only is queen a1 check a threat, rook e1 check winning the. Well, before the d7 move was played, rook e1 check threatened to win the queen on f4. But rook, this is over.
There was just a nice sacrifice in Gurevich versus Bartel.
Okay, let me pull
Worm
that.
Paka versus Spinal Tap.
Let me find you, Worm.
So this is
Got it.
Bartel is playing for the Montclair Sopranos. Okay. So he's playing the young international master Daniel Gurevich, and he just sacked something on e6, and I guess it wasn't too much of a sack because was there like the move f5 coming and just using the pin or something?
Yeah, f5 is coming, and now pawn takes e6, followed by e7 check ideas, a bishop on c7, queen takes e6, everything was sort of a problem, zigzagging across the board. So instead of taking on e6, queen d8 was played, which you're not happy about, but at the same time, if black's not completely busted yet, there might be some
That's a good
chance
thing for him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a success in and of itself. And actually, the move bishop c4 might very quickly be met by the move bishop to a5, removing the guard of the e4 pawn by attacking the knight on d2. So that bishop will need to find a home either, let's say, on h3, which is a very weird square, and bishop a5 is still a possibility, or, yeah,
I don't think it's actually so bad for black for some reason. I think the bishop on g3, that's what kind of stands out here, is like not really participating.
So his bishop takes f7 check a move? Bishop f7, rook f7, e5? And just threaten e6 or e takes f6. Both are in the air.
The funny thing is, even if you get that position, it's not, is it completely clear?
No, it's definitely not over.
Yeah. But actually, bishop f7, yeah, let's take a look. Rook f7 and e5. Where can this knight go? Actually, not to too many places. It really can't. You can't really let white play e6, right?
Yeah, and your b7 pawn also is hanging in some lines with the bishop on c7. You're being under attack.
Wow, that's a neat idea.
I'm trying to make it work. Maybe bishop b6? Is that possible?
Well, he goes for something really aggressive. He went for f5.
Whoa. Okay.
So he obviously wants to get that pawn to g6 with mating ideas. Well, actually, no. I'm exaggerating. He just wants pawn e6, and just, like that. I think that's probably the plan, although I would definitely take a look at fe, queen e6, and then like fg,
Right.
Looks very interesting as well.
And I was thinking if you go bishop takes g3 first, if somehow white's going to take on g6 and do the exact same thing you were just talking about, there are huge mating threats in the air. So
Yeah. Of course, black has to take on g3 here. There's actually not really a choice, I think.
No, there's no choice. You have to take it. Unless...
there is a move f takes g6, right? Bishop g3, f takes g6 is like a possibility.
That's what I was thinking. F takes g6, you have to take on e6. And...
Okay, so he's on the same track.
That's a nice move.
Yeah. Now, I think white is playing very nicely here and finding all these tactics that are keeping black on the defensive.
That was, in fact, a better way of doing what we were suggesting with taking on g6. By doing this way, if the rook takes, you win the rook on f7, and the mating attack still is really coming in short order. So nice attacking chess by Daniel Gurevich.
Yeah, this looks devastating. And if the king moves, he can just capture back on g3 with with what? He can think about it. If he really wants to make it pretty, he'll do it with the queen.
Yeah.
And then calculate like f takes g6 and see if there's some kind of attack on using the h7 square.
Looks like there will be after move e5 coming. So yeah, this is looks kind of tragic for black. So yeah, you can even just take with the pawn and just be up a ton of material as well. Actually king h8 is f takes g6 there. The bishop can't move because queen h3 mate is coming. So everything is just terrible. So rook f6.
The toss-me game is not so clear.
Okay, I'll swing over there.
I would say, I assume black's idea here is the move c5.
And played. And so now for white, rook d6, so c... Oh, okay, you can't take the e5 pawn right away because at the end, like let's say c4, well, I guess knight b4 happens. But my major point was after knight f4, rook e5 is rook d8 check, hitting king and bishop, which won't be good.
Yeah, but definitely white lost control of this game.
Yeah, black has been able to...
once he mouse slipped for that rook c1 move.
That was not a good... that's something that you don't expect a grandmaster like Posty to miss. It just seems weird that he chose to go rook c1. And he spent, over a minute on the clock on that move. So, but
yeah, the rook on c2 is amazing here.
Yeah, and I was going to say about Tang is I've seen a lot of his games this season, and he's clearly a very strong player. Recently became a grandmaster. But there is something in his speed chess where he gets plenty of not good-looking positions and then somehow fights back and ends up either staying in the game or even winning the games. So it's been impressive that he's able to do so. Now, in particular, this game, he's down 4 minutes on the clock. So he's also down a pawn and 4 minutes on the clock. I'm not loving his chances here, but they're certainly much improved from where they were several moves ago. And this move 91 is good.
I guess, or... Is there a problem with like that you're gonna? Well, yeah, rook b2 looks fine. Yeah.
And then I choose.
e5.
Do I take a6 or do I play rook d5 to keep my e5 pawn? So rook b2 took an a6. Okay, there's a passed a pawn, and that pawn will run pretty quickly. The c pawn is.
I wonder about the move rook c8, Robert.
So rook c8.
Okay, he went for the material, but rook c8 was kind of interesting with c4.
Yeah, definitely.
Now he's not really going to get a chance to do that because white's going to go rook c1. Unless he can. There is.
Ooh, how about rook a5 here?
Which one?
Rook a5.
Rook a5.
I'm just trying to be a nuisance on this 5th rank.
Mm-hmm.
And bring my knight to f3 to d4 in some lines.
Yeah, I don't know if he had to hurry to take that pawn on e5.
Yeah, rook c8 was definitely a good-looking idea because for everyone watching who may not be so familiar or so strong in endgames, the quality of the c pawn is worth leaving white with a second extra pawn. And the fact that you have the rook behind your passed pawn is very, very crucial in an endgame where you can put it to c2 and bring your rook to b1 even as well. So, yeah, rook c8 was a much better move in my opinion.
Yeah, I like rook a5 because the rook not being able to move is a big problem. Well, maybe he'll go f6 or something, right, Robert? He'll probably have to do that.
Yeah, I really wanted to go knight
f5,
f3.
f6, okay, well, no, we got to say that there is rook d5, and then I guess white goes knight f3. Okay, well, who knows? What's the point of this move?
To secure.
That's mysterious, right? I mean, what exactly is the point of that? Does it only just go c4 here?
So c4, maybe rook c6 and trying to get that pawn.
Okay, that was the point.
So rook c6, bishop.
Interesting.
Where's the bishop go? Bishop e6, knight f3. Oh, but then rook f5. Uh-oh.
Right. Okay, knight f3, rook a5. Okay, well, black is going to wind up okay here.
Wait,
Knight d4.
But I'm going to like that black bishop on either e4 or d3.
c3. Let's go c3 and just push that pawn. All right. Okay. Bishop e4 is fine.
Yeah, I think it's smart to keep the bishop. In fact, black is the one who's, I think, is just better here. But this c pawn easily.
Well, the funny thing is after c3, could they take it? Because there was c2. I don't even know if they could take it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Who knows? Because there's going to be one there. But okay, but bishop e4 looks fine. So yeah, definitely I'm feeling fine for black, even though he's down a pawn for now.
Right.
So white is thinking how to save this game. Yes, this move f3.
I hate that move. I hate that move.
Yeah. Well, at least. Yeah. This is bad.
I think.
Well, he's gonna go. Maybe he's gonna go like rook c. Oh yeah, he's never gonna win that pawn. And.
You started to say at least, and my response to that was going to be at least there's a next game because this one is not looking good for Post anymore. He had such a good position earlier on. All of a sudden, Tang sprang free. And now, I mean, what move do you have here? Because there are even threats of moving like rook h5 and then trying to go g5 and get that rook to the...
Yeah, I guess the problem is the white's king can now give up on ever entering the game. I mean, after the move f3, there's like no hope for him, but...
Yeah,
I mean, what are they?
So
rook c6 maybe. Then they can take on a2.
So I'm just going to pull open the Lenderman game because they're the same match, which must mean that there's some time trouble in some of these games. Lenderman's endgame is he is white. He is up a pawn, but black certainly has compensation along the open f file. The pawn e4 is weak. So would not be surprised if this one ends in a draw. But I think the Postny game is more interesting this end game, so let's stick there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems okay for black.
Yeah, so in this Postny game, c3 just happened. So Postny, how do you stop c2? The answer may be you don't.
Oh, man. Something went so wrong for white, didn't it? How did it go so wrong for white? Somehow that c-pawn just became really strong. Okay.
Is there any way to survive this? I'm really trying hard to dig deep and see. I move like knight e6.
Okay, I got a knight.
Knight
yeah,
e6.
well, I don't know. It was like there's rook c1, C2. No, it doesn't work. You can't even sack your knight on C2. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, because rook takes c2 and.
Yeah, exactly. No, you
But
can't even quite do that.
but knight e6 is an interesting attempt because the idea is if you don't take my knight, I'm going to go rook d8 check followed by knight f8 check ideas. If you take, I was trying to go rook takes d3, but after c2,
You still lose.
I was going to go rook f1. And
Oh.
my idea is to somehow get my, but then
Yeah, there's rook
rook
C5 there.
yeah, it just doesn't work out. That's
Yeah, doesn't quite work. But knight E6 was a cool trick.
yeah, something to keep in mind. This tactical saving grace. And so, knight b3 was played. Okay, similar idea, but now Tang definitely was not expecting.
tricky.
So if you have c2, there's rook takes d. No, c2. Go c2. Okay. So rook takes d3, just rook b1 check.
Rook B1 and rook takes A1.
Yeah, and the knight is overloaded. Although then rook c3 there, and then rook a3. Okay, so we'll see this happen. Rook b1 check. King moves. Take on here.
Oh, and rook C3 here. Yeah, the rook A3 and the
Exactly. Oh, but then rook c8 check. Uh-oh.
Oh, not like that. Whoa.
No, wait. There's a blunder.
Knight A1 is just win. Whoa, why did he do that?
That was a big mistake. In fact, I'm going to go
he
back
was
really
doing
quickly.
well.
Rook a2 was the move because you're
But
threatening.
now we're going to get to see some famous endgame. 4 against 3.
Wow, Tang had it in the bag, and then just at the last second went wrong.
Yeah, this is actually a really famous endgame. You can find that in some endgame manuals. I think with this exact pawn structure, actually, with the pawns on G5 and H4 already.
But it's one of those positions that, in theory is just well known and easy to execute, but when you have little time on your clock, it might be a bit difficult. Although Tang seems
they're both building. They're both building time, but what is actually White's plan here? I don't really see it.
I do see Fabiano Caruana talking. Oh wait, it's not Fabiano Caruana. It says Fabiano Carlson. It says some other person.
Look, but Robert, it's an even stronger player.
Exactly. The two of them merged together, so all their strengths are magnified. So the score.
But actually, Montclair is still just dominating tonight, 7-3. Pittsburgh is still pulling ahead of Miami, so they're like defending, their first place spot. Webster is dominating Montreal, and St. Louis Archbishops are, comfortably ahead against Buenos Aires, but still a lot of play left.
Yeah, the most interesting match to me is the Pittsburgh-Miami match, just because Pittsburgh fielded a underrated, clearly, lineup, at least on paper, one that should be an easy win for the champions, a relatively favorable matchup, but instead the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers leaped out to a lead, 4.5, 3.5. So as this game comes to conclusion, I guess we can hop over to some of those.
Yeah, we got Sean Nagel. Well, he just lost to Nicholas Cheka. So I guess they're extending their lead. Wow. Yeah, Montclair is in great form tonight, and it's too bad that form is coming right now after they're out of contention for the playoffs.
Yeah,
because they're really doing comfortably against the third-ranked team, and way below them in the standings, but tonight they are playing the dominant role.
And Montclair has a pretty good team. They've just underperformed all season. Nicholas Cheka in particular has struggled. Bassem Amin was not the kind of shining light that they were looking for when they brought him on as a free agent. He hasn't played in that many matches, and when he did play, I think he had a bit of a difficult time as well. And he did get fortunate, I remember, against the Chessbrahs. He was in trouble, and all of a sudden he was gifted some pieces. Okay, is Andrew Tang flagging? Did he just flag? Oh my God, he flagged.
Who flagged?
Andrew Tang flagged.
Oh, Andrew Tang flagged.
How is that possible? He is one of the fastest players in the world.
Oh man, who knows? Like maybe it was like his internet connection lagged for a second. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like for Iturrizaga, he seems to not be doing that well again, but he's way ahead in the clock. I mean, I guess that's his formula. His positions don't have to be great.
Now
well, okay. I mean, he's fine. He's not doing bad, but he's down a pawn at this point. It's not necessarily winning for Black, but certainly not like him putting pressure on his opponent.
Right. It's a clock situation thing where he's up, 7 minutes, and Mika Bratton is playing well, clearly, But unfortunately for him, he's not done well on the clock, and thus will get himself to big trouble and probably lose this game, is my prediction. And that's no offense meant to the player or to the Pittsburgh pawn grabbers. It's just you can't leave yourself with 20 seconds left in a position that is very complicated in the ending.
Yeah, although maybe the bishop will have his say. It's always better to have the bishop than the knight. And right now, a knight g5, like not only is there bishop takes b2, in fact, that is what he's going to play, because I just realized that on rook g8, there's rook e6. You don't want to do that. Right. So bishop takes b2. Now be careful. There you go. Okay. So I don't see him losing this one, Robert, just because he just grabbed that pawn. I mean, is White really going to win with just like the g pawn and the a pawn? It's hard to see that happening.
Yeah, stranger things have been seen, but yeah, I don't think it's happening here. There are no.
Yeah, I think he'll hold on for a draw, but so will White. So let's see. Oh, Yuneski Kazada and Atulia Shetty have been having a really interesting game with White's just having an extra exchange. So, you know what? Maybe it's not that fascinating. White seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, Shetty is not having a good game here in this one. He's had some good matchups, but this one is not one of them. So Shetty looks like he's going down. And who else want to lose? That's Safal Bor. He's playing Grandmaster Julio Becerra and Safal Bor.
We got to take a look at Sharp Chess versus Fedoseev.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
You know what? We have not had even one chance to look at Vladimir Fedoseyev's games, and he is the top player for the St. Louis Archbishops tonight, one of the top players in the world. So let's see what he's doing against Sharp Chess. Sharp Chess is who was that again? Is that Obregon?
Yes, it's Obregon.
It's like, Robert, if I don't know who it is, I'm just gonna say it's Obregon. it sounds like I could pull that off. It sounds believable.
Yeah, I mean, Obregon has been playing well, and Fedoseev, he pains me. Every time I see his games, I pick him on my fantasy team. Not this week, but normally I pick him on my fantasy team. He underperforms a bit, and then my heart hurts. And so Fedoseev had a tough time the Aeroflot Open, so his classical rating took a hit. His blitz skills, rapid skills have been, shown in the World Rapid Championship. He tied for Vishy Anand for first place, but in the Pro Chess League, he has struggled. And in this position in particular, he's a beautiful, gorgeous outpost in the b4 square. But what I like for White is the activity. You see that Black's rooks in particular are just staring down into their own pawns. The White rook on c1 is clearly aiming at this bishop on c6. That is well defended, but still has some options. This rook on f1 can swing up into f3 and into an attack. So queen f6.
Yeah, my feeling is probably White's doing decently, just because the knight on e5 is very strong. And now maybe just, okay, he went to h3, so I guess he wanted to control the c8 square, and he didn't see much potential from b1. And that probably makes sense, yeah.
Watch out for some knight takes f7 threats, Irina. I mean, not yet, but knight takes f7.
Yeah.
Let's say I make a wasted move with h4, knight takes f7. You can't take with the queen, because queen f7 runs right into this skewer. But if you play king f7, then maybe your king gets hunted down as well after some bishop e6 checks. So something to keep an eye on. It's not particularly good at the moment, but it might be in the cards in the future. So knight b5 played. And now maybe White's going to...
I think it's really important that White is controlling the c8 square. So Black has a pretty bad bishop on c6, and he can't really trade it for that knight. I mean, he can trade it, actually, but it's just that, he won't be able to fight for the c-file. And also then there's knight d7 tactics coming.
Ooh, nice.
So I feel like White's doing well here. This game is actually going to be interesting to see how Fedoseev holds on.
And Irina, what that tells me is that bishop f5 to h3 was an ingenious idea.
I know, it was very good. So much better than the standard retreat to b1.
So now I'm thinking about queen d1. We saw queen d8 played by Nizhnik in the other game. Queen d1 with the idea of playing f5 at the right moment, trying to take advantage of the fact that this h5 pawn may be pushed a little bit too far.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I have to say that when you were talking, I was just dreaming about g4.
Well, actually, g4 is also going to be a good move. Now the queen can come in and capture on g4, and you're blasting things open.
I was looking at rook g1 and g4, and I kind of think that's what he should do with that, using that outpost of the knight on e5.
Yeah, knight takes d6 followed by f5 is another idea. I mean, this is just it's something that I was touching upon earlier, is that Fedosev's pieces are super passive. And it's not really any fault of theirs. It's that the white rooks are much better than their opponents. The rook on b8 in particular is just a stinker. And the rook on d8 is also in a place where it stares at its own bishop and a pawn on d5 in front of it. So the white is the one who initiates the pawn breaks here, which I think will tell the tale. So Fedosev, once again, we tuned in for his game, and it makes me upset some more. Okay, we're going to have to go over...
I'm sorry for that idea.
It's totally fine. You're right. We should take a look at these games.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, there's a top player, and we haven't seen any of his games yet, so it seems interesting.
Iturizaga,
who's getting low on time? Well, Iturizaga, let's just take a look at what he's doing. He's still down a pawn. He's still
he declined a draw. Wow.
He declined a draw. Maybe he didn't get it in time. I mean, it's possible he's trying to win. It's just kind of hard to see how he's going to do it.
Right.
No, I don't think he's trying to win. It's just not that realistic.
Yeah, because he is trying to win, clearly. Like, he's, almost giving...
That's crazy, right? I mean, how Black can't even hang a piece. Like his bishop on c5, like you can't hang it.
Right. There's no way to win any material unless you somehow get some knight c4, take b6, and then also take on a5, all in one swoop. So what is he doing? So, okay, bishop b...
Let's take a look, actually, at Safal Bora versus Julio Becerra. They're down to the last minute, and that's a pretty important match. Now, Safal Bora is playing for it's so funny how I can't ever remember.
He's Pittsburgh. He's one of the underrated Pittsburgh players here.
There you go.
But
Pittsburgh. And he's doing very well, right, against Julio.
So, Irina, the bishop on c6 is one of my least favorite pieces in chess.
Oh, yeah. Did I say that? Sorry, I even counted the pawns wrong. Well, first of all, it's even in pawns, and is he doing very well? I don't know. It's actually not so clear. His rook is really active. He must be doing well, actually.
Yeah, he must be, because there's problems on a7 and on f7. In fact, queen f2 is a nice-looking move. But what I was going to say...
Yeah, that was really nice. And rook a7 here is strong. And the bishop will prove his worth, I think, helping that pawn advance. So, yeah, he just doesn't have much time here. White, what kind of plan should White undertake? Well, probably not taking on g6, probably not f6. This move was interesting.
I like that move.
Consolidating move, right?
So knight g4, maybe just trying to make things a little tricky at some point. Cool, queen's coming to e4 with check, but that's maybe just one check.
Maybe h3. How about h3? He liked this defensive strategy. So how about controlling that square?
Okay.
Well, he wants to go queen e3. All right. I think White's getting a bit confused.
So play f6. Yes, good move. That way you're off for that queen e3 exchange, and you threaten back rank amazing queen to h. Queen e3 now. Do it.
Queen e3, queen c4.
Or queen f5, because rook f2 runs right into knight g4, so be careful. Queen c4 is also good.
All right. Oh, he wants that queen trade. Queen c5. Okay, Black is going to obviously avoid it forever. Oh, okay. All right. Now, I can see Black going on to win this game, although he needs to get the rook on b8 in the game.
Yeah, that would be a shame. And it would
White played a bit unconfident. Look, he plays this move finally. He
had knight takes c6. Now knight takes c6 still works.
Oh, d5 is hanging. They're not noticing that. Okay.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It happens.
Wait,
it happens, Robert.
Queen f3 blunders a knight e1 check.
But you know what? Maybe, he can't trade, probably. He can't go into the bishop versus rook endgame.
Oh, knight e1, knight e1. No, he missed it. He could have won the queen. Queen f3, knight e1 check.
Okay, he has king h. Oh, wait. He has king h6 here. Well, b6 is good. B7, you might as well. And what's going on there? It's gonna get close. The king is gonna try to go to like c7, but Black's gonna, White just needed to play pawn g4 and g5 to win, but he's not getting that time.
Oh, and I cannot believe that Julio missed a free queen.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's a good move.
Yeah, it's interesting. Absolutely. King here, but I don't know. What's his point? What's his point actually?
Oh no, he's out of.
No, he's out of moves, right? What was that? Now he's losing.
Yeah.
Oh man. So Julio, yeah, he's still getting his comeback in this game. Yeah. Totally winning position for Black, right?
So what White needs to rely on is some kind of bishop g4 to e6 move. So rook d4, bishop e6. Okay, or not?
Yeah, there's some g5 move, exactly. He's breaking through. Even g4 here.
G4 might be very strong. Yeah, I like that move. Now take on d5. Yeah, okay, or not. This is still easily winning.
Wow. So with such a bad rook and f8 that we saw in the beginning, I mean, just somehow the queen and knight combo were like tricky enough. You know, that's the thing. When you got seconds, you can't really evaluate by like who's better. It's like who's got practical chances here, you know?
Yeah, and just to show everyone where my freak out was, after knight d3, queen f3, there was this very simple move, knight e1 check, forking king and queen, winning too much material to count. So unfortunately for Safal Bor, he was already in enough trouble where it didn't matter, and he did go on to lose the game. So who else should we get to?
Well, let's see. Actually, let's go back to Fedoseyev's game. It's getting down on time, very interesting, and we just see white playing the move that we've been expecting, this g4 move, and we're still liking white.
I'm loving white, and I also pulled up Lequang Liam and Eric Hansen's game because those are two favorite players here. Lequang Liam has arguably been the best player in the Pro Chess League just because he's pretty much won every single game he's played. And Eric Hansen is the almighty Chessbrah. Everyone knows him. He needs no introduction. But here in this game that we have on screen, Fedosey Black against Obregon, who is so strong that instead of using the name Obregon, which is a great name, by the way, they use sharp chess because that's exactly what the position entails, is very, very sharp chess here. And I think Black is just totally busted. After g4, you're threatening to take on f5, go rook g1, put a rook on g6 even. I mean, this is ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's going to take en passant, right? En passant, I would gather, but it's just such an ugly position. It's incredibly ugly. And what's funny is that beautiful knight on b4 is completely sidelined from the attack coming on the king side.
Yeah, maybe your
This is an example of like outposts not always being useful.
Right. You know, it looked beautiful. I mentioned at the beginning, but what is it doing there? It's just kind of sitting pretty, and you can't just sit there and do nothing. And after hg3, queen g3, g6 is hanging, bishop takes f5 is a threat in the near future. Knight f7 is a threat if you move your king to h7. So pretty bad, I would say.
Pretty ugly, man. It must be deep in the night in Moscow.
It definitely is. And
you know, he woke up and he's immediately back in a nightmare.
Yeah, this is just, I hate his position. Maybe he's going to survive. I don't see how. But Obregon's been impressive, right? He's looked good. He beat Alejandro Ramirez, if I'm not mistaken. And
yep.
He is now...
He showed there that the bishop is better than the rook.
Yeah, and now he's doing really well against Fedosey. And Fedosey, tick-tock, tick-tock. His clock is going down. He's down a minute, and his position stinks. So that's not a good sign for him. So, by the way, Montclair already won. They're up 9.5 to 3.5 over the Minnesota Blizzard. So unlike Pittsburgh, who fielded sort of low-rated lineup, Minnesota did not, and are still getting absolutely demolished. So something...
Yeah, wow. They've already lost the match?
Yeah, they did.
Well, Montclair is on fire. Well, I'm really happy for Montclair. It means that they're going to keep their place in the league, and we will be seeing more of them next year. So that's good. That's good news for Montclair. Just, you know, if the season's not going to work out, at least you don't get the total, you know,
Right.
bummer of being kicked out of the league as well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out two things here. One is how Minnesota went so wrong because they, like I said, they fielded a good lineup, but also Fedosey put his knight on d3. So you were talking about how the knight wasn't doing anything, so now he's being a little bit tricky, probably going to go knight b2 next, but somehow just g takes f5 coming with, you know, rook g1 ideas. I feel like Black should be in big trouble.
Yeah, it's interesting that he went to c3 and not like c2.
Yeah.
Why didn't he like c2? I kind of like the rook lift to g2.
Perhaps he's just trying to be as forceful as possible, saying, you know what, go knight b2, take my pawn on a4. I don't really care. I'm just going to go g takes f5. And by going to c3,
yeah,
you're immediately threatening the knight on d3, of course. So,
yeah. I just feel like that rook would be lovely on g2.
I don't at
I
all
want
disagree.
all those pieces gathered on the king side. But okay, I mean, I don't know. I don't really like the rook as much on c3. It's not because I'm concerned about the a4 pawn. It was just like I wanted that rook in there for the attack. But
maybe rook c2, there's pawn takes g4.
Oh, you know what there is, Robert? There's like some trick with, well, there's tricks with knight e5 that he's obviously watching out for.
Oh. Yeah, you do have to be careful about that one. So rook c3, if
It
knight
doesn't
e5.
quite work, but maybe this is why he, I mean, I don't know. He's probably looking at that knight e5 Pawn takes, okay, he didn't go for it because it wasn't working because there was rook c6, but it was definitely an idea that was there in the position.
Right, so if rook b1 or something had been played, then knight takes c5 would have been pretty strong. So instead he allows...
Maybe pawn g6, is that a winning move or not?
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks very good. Is it winning, though?
Yes, it has to be. So pawn g6, if you take my rook, bishop e6 check, queen f6
Oh, yeah,
check.
there's also rook c7 coming in, right?
Yikes.
Yeah, okay.
So rook g1, rook f8 played. What is going on here?
Yeah, this is why we needed the rook on c2, so to play rook g6 here and not worry so much.
Yeah. So what can white do? Because now rook g6...
Why exactly does white have everything hanging?
So rook b3 is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, rook b3. I guess that's a sensible move.
What?
Wow, rook c2, also good looking.
Okay,
yeah,
so...
well, I'm glad he finally gets it, you know, I have to say. Back to the rook g2 idea.
Yeah, this is going to be extremely powerful. So
Knight d6.
Knight d6 or rook g2, one of those, one of those moves should be good. So yeah, knight d6 is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but I mean, they're both actually winning, I think, like completely winning, yeah.
Can we take a look at this knight on a4? It kind of went like a ring around the rosy and ended up with no squares anyway. So now knight d6.
Probably just going like rook g6, yeah, and
queen
maybe
f4.
rook g5 or
rook g5 is great.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, that was a crushing game.
Yep. Rook knight d6. Just go knight d6. Don't even go rook h6. I mean, everything is winning, but you might as well save your knight.
Yeah, I agree. The knight is beautiful. He deserves to live.
Yep. Game over.
All right.
Okay. So Lequang Liem is playing Eric Hansen. Wow, this is more pieces than I know what to deal with in this position. Hansen is doing well. I don't know. So somehow this open h1 diagonal really scares me if I'm white. Yeah. A move like queen b7 followed by knight g5 is... So rook e8. Now knight takes...
Yeah, this is the first game, by the way, that Liam Lee has been down on the clock. He's actually always had much more time. And in this game, I noticed that he was down quite a bit from the beginning.
And what is he just... Is he in trouble? What happens if knight takes c3? Oh, queen d2. Wow. The queen d2 threatens queen takes h6, which...
So there's no knight d1, yeah.
Yeah. So you take, I take, and I want to mate you.
And if king g7 here... What do we do on king g7?
That's a great question. Maybe queen e3 or queen f1?
Yeah, queen e3. I mean, I guess basically like black can regain the pawn on d6, which I think he wants to do. So he might just play like knight d6.
Right.
I mean, queen e3 certainly looks reasonable, but it doesn't save the pawn, and I don't know, maybe he doesn't have a way to.
Yeah, maybe queen b7 still. There's always ideas of knight g5 that are frustrating. So he did take on g7. And, okay. What can be done here? Rook e1, I guess, is also possible, but then you could definitely take on d6 with the queen. And I don't think black wants to give the pawn that way.
Yeah, maybe maybe queen e3 and try to put the queen in f4.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was intending, but I'm still not sold.
Queen e3, yeah?
Because queen e3, knight g5, right? And then h3 hangs as well.
Yeah, you don't have queen f4 there.
This position is very frustrating.
Oh yeah, queen e3, knight g5. So, okay, let's go rook e1. We got to pin the knight for sure.
But then queen takes, or knight takes d6. One of those taking on d6.
Yep. So, which one is it going to be?
I haven't decided yet. Don't make me choose.
I like rook e1. He's desperately got to trade some pieces here and keep it together. But yeah, he's worse. He's worse. No wonder he's been taking a lot of time. It's been tough for him.
No, it's been this is one of those games when if you're Eric Hansen, it's a great confidence builder because he struggled a bit this season, but if I'm not mistaken, he still had the highest rated average opponent throughout the entire Pro Chess League. And so if he can hold his own with the black pieces here, he can help keep Montreal from being relegated, perhaps.
Yeah, Montreal is not in the best position. I mean, they're going to lose tonight, most likely.
Yeah.
They're down by 3 points right now, and they really needed not to lose. Given that Montclair is through, they're fighting with the Miami champions. So Miami is tied with Pittsburgh. So
Wow.
6-6. I mean, that is a really close match. That's going to be fascinating going into the final games, which I think have probably started or are going to start soon. Let's see if they are. Maybe yeah, they've gotten started. So we got Julio facing off against Hyman and something that was a French defense. We got Iturizaga playing Attilio Shetty. Okay, solid position for Iturizaga. Looks like it was like, it wasn't a Catalan, but it looks kind of like one. Micah Bertain is playing Uniski Kazada, and that was, yes, a Scotch opening.
Do you have any preference for which game I should pull up? Because I can.
Yeah, I mean, I think those games are still developing. They still got tons of time, so I think maybe we should stick to the ones that are having a bit less time. Like, for example, Cheka versus Gurvich. I got a preference for that because there's something cool going on there.
Okay, let me pull that game up right now. Check Speed Skater.
Versus Wormpaka.
Whoa, lots of pawns for white, but an extra piece for black.
A knight for 2 pawns, and who is this good for? It must be pretty good for white. I mean, also the white's rook is in the game, and he's going to play e6 now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, those pawns are coming real fast. And like you said, rook d1, okay, e6 first. It's probably okay as well.
Yeah, he's not afraid of bishop d6 yet. I mean, to me, it looks like those pawns are just going to get to where they're going.
Right.
A very straightforward plan by Cheka. So however he got those center pawns, it looks very strong.
Let's see. I can just take us back up moves. Looks like.
Yeah, it seems like he's been sacrificing that for a long time. Wow. He sacrificed back on move 17. Kind of an intuitive sacrifice. I got to say his opponent pushed him to do it. Maybe he was already in a bad position, actually. But certainly it didn't look like a bad sacrifice for white, especially once he got the F pawn moving and the queen trade. I'm not even sure like what was he thinking, Daniel Gurvich, because like white's moves are just so easy. We just push and push until the end.
Yeah, I'm thinking, can black try to do something like rook to d8 with the hope of like trying to take all the pawns along the d file? But even the move rook d8
there's bishop d5 there, and it's not a fun move, Robert.
Yeah. I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, I know. I knew that move was gonna make you sad.
Even rook d8, rook c7 ideas. I mean, everything. There are 2 passed pawns on the 7th rank. It's just pretty hopeless. So, a nice game by Nico Cheka. And so I'm gonna go back to the Hansen game just because time is dwindling.
Is Alex Lenderman done playing? Is their match done? No, it's not, right? It must be still in the middle of something.
He might be. Oh wait, yeah, the match should not be done. 9.5, 3.5. It's 13 games, so maybe he is done.
Yeah, and I can't find his game, so maybe he finished.
I'll look for him.
We got Posny. His teammate is playing author Mauricio Flores, and Posny is.
Well, I'm keeping on the Hansen game for the moment, just because Laquang Lam is under 18 seconds left. But Letterman drew his game against Andrew Tang.
Okay, he drew. Okay. So Liam has no time. Yeah. And what's going on? Does he have a position? Oh, it's a really tough position. But maybe he can get out of it. I mean.
Knight f4 has to be tempting here. Yep, played. Now one of these knights are coming to probably h3.
Yeah, and queen to e5. Or queen to b8.
Where's that knight going, though? So queen e5.
Where's that going? But it looks so dangerous. It's supposed to scare. Supposed to scare white. But you're right. I mean, there's no dangerous. Right. Okay. This one is attacking g4.
And if f3, you've weakened the dark squares, right? So
wow. King g3. That's brave. He's bravely defending. What about h5?
h5 looks just brutal.
To come in. Yeah, he needs to get that queen in there.
And if f3, now queen c7 or queen b8 or whatever. Also, pawn takes
Yeah.
b3 is now a threat too because c3 was hanging. So
Ooh, so he's going to beat him. I mean, he's got tons of time, and there's absolutely no reason not to win here.
isn't queen c7 just leading to mate? Can you stop knight e2 check from happening? And by check, I mean double check.
Which move are you saying, Robert?
It's after f3, just queen c7.
Queen c7, and you want to go knight e2, double check, and mate on g3.
Yeah, that's my very straightforward plan.
I like that. Queen c7, beautiful. Same idea. Queen b8.
Okay, so knight e4, I think maybe is the only way to try to survive by protecting the square.
Yeah, and then you just take on b3.
Yeah, something like that.
Try to promote that pawn.
Knight e2 check is still over.
Knight e2, it looks deadly. Yeah, he's going to find that, of course.
Boom. Ooh, f4.
Now you're shedding pawns like, you know, the dog sheds hair.
That's a great way to put it. In fact, after f4, you just take with either knight, and it's not, your king is not any more safe than it was a second ago. And knight e2 check.
Knight e2, back for more.
Yeah. So king g2 is the only move.
Nice game by Eric. Very nice.
Oh, he's letting him mate him. That's nice. So Chessbrah Eric Hansen winning with the black pieces over the one of the world's elite players, Lequang Liam. So really nice showing there by Hansen.
Nice. I mean, that is one of the few games that Liam Lee has lost this season, I guess, right? I mean, maybe you'll tell me that it's the first one. I wouldn't be surprised.
It might be. I know he had dropped only at 1.5 points all season, but I would not be surprised if those were all draws. So where are you taking us to? Can't speak. Where are you taking us next?
Now, where is our next stop? All right. Well, there's no games that have like really little time, I think. I guess there's a very boring game, Bartel versus Sean Nagel, which they don't have much time, but it's not that interesting. I guess let's not go there.
Okay.
Mauricio Flores versus Postny is just good for black, but we could see that for a second, sure.
Wow, what in the world? So black has a queen for rook and two minor pieces. Okay, so queen and two pawns.
But the king is open and he's missing pawns on the queen side. So this is one of those cases where rook and two pieces are not doing that well against the queen. In
particular, Irina, is because white has two knights, right? Knights are they can't gain the same distance that bishops do. So even if these bishops are traded, if I'm black, I'm threatening bishop c4, so I don't even want to trade. But if the bishops are traded, black's playing a b6, a5, and just start throwing this pawn down. The queen side is one of many good options. So I really don't like white's position at all. Mauricio Flores maybe should read his book again and try to figure out a way to survive and not get such terrible positions against players like Postny.
Well, let's take a look, I guess, at Attilio Shetty. These games are still in the middle game, but I think that's what we've got right now. Attilio Shetty playing Eduardo Iturrizaga. So this is a very important match. This is Pittsburgh versus
Miami.
And I think we're probably going to stay on this match because it's hugely important for Miami to win. And if they win, let's see what that means.
I have the standings right here.
They're probably going to stay in the league.
Yes. Miami needs this win because they have worse tiebreaks than the Chessbrahs. And so if the Chessbrahs...
the Chessbrahs are not in such great position, I guess. Their chances of winning, they're definitely there, but they're still 2 points behind right now, while these are like neck and neck. So certainly I think right now if Miami manages to win, they're probably going to be number 6.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see how it's going. So Iturrizaga has been doing well all night. How is it for him here? As usual, his position looks a little ugly. I would say maybe a lot ugly.
Yeah, not loving what's going on right here. But let me just pull this game back up really quickly. And I have the standing still up. So let me get back to the game. Boom, back to the game. And here we are. So Iturrizaga's bishop on a6 in particular is just hideous. I mean, that is just, as bad as they come. It's just, if it goes to b7, it's behind its d pawn. On a6, it's behind a b pawn. And black can get rid of it right away, right? Because by playing the move, rook takes
Maybe
c3.
he goes b4 here, Robert. I'm thinking he's got to do something tricky like b4. Okay, well, he didn't, but it
Well,
was a knight.
yeah, b4 is definitely an idea. I guess it's just gonna take on b4 and then take on
But I
a6.
wanted to play bishop c4 there, at least improve the bishop a bit and play b5 maybe.
Yeah, I'm with you because if you're gonna do something,
Defending d5 pawn.
you can take on
Well, I mean,
c3.
this one just looks terrible, doesn't it? I mean, what happens when knight takes b5? Oh, is there like knight g4? But knight g4 is not a big deal because the d4 is protected.
Right, the knight does
Knight
well.
b5 is just like simple.
I hate black's position. Maybe queen. Nope. Queen f5 runs into one of the biggest forks I've ever seen with knight d6. I mean, two rooks and a queen, all the same, and a bishop all hanging at the same time. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wonder what he didn't. Why is he even thinking? I mean, knight b5, very intuitive. Okay, so white's better. The b6 pawn is a weakness. b5 is a strong square. Bishop on b7 is bad, and that's, those three things I think add up to a nice advantage for white.
Okay, 94. I like that move to try to go bishop c6 and take this knight off the board and take over the c3 square. Right, that's definitely a strategy worth employing.
Yeah. Okay, so he has to be a little bit careful here about the move. I mean, one day, not really yet, but maybe g5 one day. Get trapping in that bishop, because I was thinking about the move e3 here, but I noticed there's like some issues with that bishop on h6.
Right, and bishop c6 also is going to be a bit of a nuisance. Although I guess you just protect the knight with the queen there, and yeah, you do have to be a bit careful about this bishop on h6. But for the time being, at least, it looks like white is to be preferred.
Yeah, and he can. I'm just thinking. Bishop, the problem is, I'm confused about what to do with that bishop on h6.
Right.
And I was looking at the move bishop d2, but I just don't like it. It just, something looks wrong with it.
Yeah, bishop d2 might be moved by bishop c6, and the knight. I guess then I can go back.
And we're kind of overloaded. Right. That's not really the plan. What about the f3? No, that can't be right. Knight c3 would happen.
Right, then d4 falls with check as well.
Yeah. So yeah, you see, he kind of had that same feeling about that dark squared bishop. Okay, so that move I can understand because I was wondering about what to do with it.
So bishop c6 still looks pretty good. Wait, are you gonna try to take on e4? No, you can't. Wait, actually, that's interesting. Bishop c6.
Oh wow, so he plays bishop f4 in order to get control of the d6 square. Okay. Yeah, actually, that's exactly what he's going to do, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no real mating threat for white. I'm sorry,
Unless
for black.
there's the move g5 there, Robert. But I mean, no, then you take on c8 and you escape through b6. Okay.
Wow, yeah, that would be something, wouldn't it? So you're saying bishop c6 takes, rook
Bishop
takes,
e4.
knight d6, g5.
Yeah.
But then there's even knight takes e4. Oh, you're saying with the pawn on e4. That makes more sense.
Yeah, I took with the pawn on e4. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Well, we might just get to see all these lines on the board.
Well, g5 actually can be met by bishop e5 as well if you're too nervous. But yeah, just, I mean, your idea with knight takes c8 followed by knight takes b6 is definitely good enough.
So maybe he'll go queen b2 here. I guess it's a possibility if he wants to play it safe. But I mean, bishop e4 is the one to really calculate, right? Yeah.
Because queen b2 ran into knight c3 issues regardless of bishop b5, queen takes.
Right.
Oops, got to take here first. And then knight c3 happens. Knight e2 has to check. f4, d4, everything's sort of falling down.
So what about just simple bishop f3? Bishop d4 and rook fd1. But yeah, he gets the bishop to c4. Okay, queen d2 here. Most likely queen d2.
Yeah,
but like you know what? Black's back in the game. Look how he managed to improve that bishop. I mean, that's fascinating. That, like, I don't think Black's doing badly anymore. I think Black is in the game. The bishop on c4 is amazing. And he's just going to go b5 next move.
And two different bishops might become good because the bishop might come to g7 over to f8 or something like that to try to push this b pawn down to b3. So yeah, the bishop on c4 is a great piece.
That's the value of an outpost. I mean, the position has completely changed from what we felt about it in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably white went a little bit wrong in certain
And we
places.
can't even pinpoint where he went wrong. I mean, it was very close.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe his bishop f4 move
his
has
move
the
seems very plausible.
yeah, I don't know, maybe some other move where you're not running the risk of running into knight c3 ideas. So
Yeah, he's just gonna play bishop g7 here, or rook a8.
yeah, let me catch up.
Probably bishop g7, or he'll improve the bishop. Maybe bishop f6.
Oh, it's looking quite nice. Oh, posting a game down to under a minute left for Flores, and it's really did they get?
Oh, that just ended in a draw.
How in the world?
What just happened? He played knight g. Oh, because that was a discovery. Wow.
Wait, but how is this a draw?
I don't know, because there's some g6 move and
wow.
And
okay, let's go back a few moves. Did we overstate how bad the position was for?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure we didn't. I'm pretty sure it was bad, but it's somehow within a few moves.
Oh, he blundered some back rank check stuff. I mean, moving the bishop from d5 makes no sense to me.
Yeah, right. So he blundered that, let the rook in.
Yeah, just play b6, a5. I mean, if you play b6 and a5, I don't see what white's going to do, but all right. So bishop e4 and check, and they agreed for a draw. So you have to take bishop e4 check, g6. This feels like it should be almost winning, if not winning for white, but I guess rook d7 check, the king goes to g8. Somehow
Well, I guess they can make perpetual, I don't know, rook d7.
Yeah, rook d7, rook d8 kind of stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if that's...
I mean, the king could go to f6. Yeah, maybe okay, that was a bit of a strange ending, but let's not spend too much time on that.
Okay, well, that came in a draw somehow, some way.
So Iturrizaga did play rook a8.
Okay, I'm going to pull up Fedoseyev's game just in case, because, well, he's one of the best players, as we noted.
Big fish.
And his game is interesting against Perez Ponce. In fact, Fedoseyev's up a pawn and seems to be winning. Lequang Liem has the black pieces against Saric. So that's also a game that we should keep an eye on. But it's a bit early in that game. But I just want to make... Ooh, okay, what is happening here? So
which game are you looking at
Saric, that's Gudin 11,
yeah.
well, 111 versus Liam Le. It's like a French that looks like that's gone well for white, is what I'm seeing thus far. Is Lequang Liem going to lose? As a Caro-Kann, okay. It has like French vibes to it, but I guess there's no light square bishop, so that should be a telltale sign that.
So yeah, this looks pretty good for white. I mean, now what is he going to do, like king f8 or something?
King f8, but then I can just take on d4, right? Isn't white going to be up a pawn?
Up a pawn?
Well, maybe you have to worry about some knight f5 stuff.
Be up a pawn, probably.
Yeah, maybe just knight back to g3 and just play it slow. Maybe I was overestimating the initial position because there is some certain counterplays. So king f8, maybe castle and queenside is the way to go. I can't even, so many good-looking options, I can't figure out the right one.
I guess there's also the move knight f5 in the initial position. There does exist that one.
So g4?
Yeah, and you're threatening to take, aren't you?
Yeah, there's...
Yeah, you are. You are. Okay, knight f5 for that reason would not be very good.
So maybe your king f8 move, your instincts probably are correct here. So king f8...
that was the first move I thought of. Well, what do we got in the game Brattain versus Kazada?
Okay,
we have white having lost a pawn. Now, does he have compensation for it?
Whoa. This is a weird configuration piece with the black bishop on d6. You don't really see that often with the pawn on d7 behind it. But I don't see compensation. I see an extra pawn. I see great black minor pieces. The move rook h to e8 sort of speaks for itself. Maybe there's some knight e5 stuff happening there, though. But I'm happy to somehow take this knight and open up this long diagonal.
Yeah, I feel like overall, definitely black is doing fine here. I mean, he doesn't have any bad pieces, and he should just bring in his rooks. There you go. So you guessed that one. Yeah, so well, we like Casada's position here.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got. How is Nizhnik doing? Oh, they just started.
Okay.
That's not so fascinating.
I'll pull up that game because Amon Hamilton, everyone's favorite formerly bearded one,
Yeah,
And
maybe we can stick to the Shetty game because he's got like a minute and it's very critical and it's still close.
Pittsburgh is up
He's
7 to
defending.
6.
Uh, yeah, exactly. So it's a very critical game, and Miami needs to win this one. And I think they're gonna get a win out of it to Rizaga is my feeling because the time situation and the turnaround cannot have been that pleasant for White. Um, so what is he gonna play? I mean, B4 or Rook A8? Rook A8. He should take the file, I think, unless he's watching out for E4. Uh-huh. There are ideas. White does have this dream of one day getting to play the move E4, I think.
That's very interesting, yeah. And also bishop E5 is something to keep an eye on as well. So now,
So look at that. He just goes for this technical move. Okay.
so queen D2. So I would go queen D2, and then bishop B4 might be the idea. Oof.
Yeah, and then you have to go queen C2, and then there's like bishop B3, right? Yeah.
So queen
Okay,
B1.
queen B1. Any threats? I mean, B3 is tempting. But he wants to go E4. I still think that's like, he really wants to undermine the bishop on C4, open up his own bishop. Like even here, is E4 possible here? I mean, I would be kind of desperately trying to make that move work. Okay, fine.
Wait, bishop D6 now. I was waiting for this B4 move. Now bishop D6.
Oh,
And if bishop
okay.
F8, you play bishop to E5, and you're threatening mate over there on the H8 square. So you black.
That's a nice idea. That's why you can't really play so fast, I think. When you got this big time edge, maybe you need to spend just a bit more because he's letting White back into the game.
And actually, you're right for two reasons. So not only can you go bishop E5 and rook H1 ideas, you can just take on F8 and play E4, as you've been suggesting, move after move. And after that,
Yeah.
the D pawn is passed as well. So I don't think that.
Yeah, that's possible though. I don't know. I think I would definitely play bishop E5 and like now is in Shetty's situation. Of course, he has to know how his teammates are doing, and his teammate Micah Bertain is struggling a bit.
Whoa!
And
Look at that move, bishop C5 by Shetty.
Shetty, and is that good? Is that supposed to?
I mean, the idea is pretty ingenious in a sense. If you take on C5, I take back with the pawn, and all of a sudden my pawn is passed. I would go queen B2 here. Go queen B2, Shetty. Just give up the bishop on C5. Put your queen on the long dagger. It's a great move, queen B2.
Yeah, queen B2 is tricky, but that's okay. Rook H1 is
Same
probably
idea.
just as good, right?
Same idea.
Same idea. Wow, this game is going to be exciting.
But queen b2 would have allowed white to take over the a file very quickly. So I think sort of the wrong move order. So now e4.
Is he going to go queen G1?
Oh, whoa. Queen G.
Oh, I think he might, Robert. He is looking at that.
And queen G1 at bishop C5, you just go queen H2.
Queen H2, just kind of go for it. King F8. I mean, take on C5.
Okay, took first.
Well, he's going to go king F8. No, rook F8. Queen G1.
Okay, same.
Oh, same, but not maybe.
Well, rook G6 is a threat, right?
Quite as strong. Okay, rook G6. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good.
And if queen B6, maybe just E4. So your idea E4 seems to be hanging everywhere.
Oh, yeah, you don't have bishop H5 because there's king G7, unfortunately.
Right, that would be a pretty bad blunder.
I feel like he messed up. He shouldn't have allowed this queen F6. That's why the rook shouldn't go first,
Yeah, you're right. Now E4.
Yeah, no, now his attack is run out of steam. He's messed this one up. Now he's given up on it, and he's going to get punished for that. That's unfortunate because he definitely had nice chances here.
Yeah, he just did the wrong move order. Queen b2 instead of rook h1 was the precise move needed to get the attack going and to go after that b4 pawn as well. And it just feels like now all of a sudden black has not rushed his b2 move. We should stick here just because Shetty is 5 seconds up. This is crucial because Pittsburgh's up 7-6. And if white can get your move, finally get your move in e4, it's not happening anytime soon, but if that move can be played, white will get the necessary counterplay to try and hold this. And actually, bishop takes d5 would be a threat. Bishop d5
right
now?
Right
oh,
now.
no. Bishop
oh,
d5
no, it's a check. Oh, he missed it. It's a check. Oh, sometimes, the chess players, I'm not really surprised by that type of mistake because, it's like you sometimes just have blindness to it. But, it's Rizaga. I think he just won all of his games and contributed a lot to the team tonight. Did he? I mean, did he win everything or was there something he lost?
I'm not sure, but I just can't believe
he had a ton of bad positions and won them all.
That kind of sounds like him. I mean, it's not trying to be offensive. he's a great player, but in the speed chess, it seems like every game he's in trouble and wins. He went 3.5 out of 4. He drew against Mika Bertin with the white pieces.
He drew. Okay. Well, he did score very well, I think, tonight for Miami. And if Miami goes through, that will certainly be thanks to him. Now,
Pittsburgh is up
Mika
8-7. So someone just won for Pittsburgh when we weren't looking.
Yeah. So who was that?
I'm not even sure, but they're up 8-7, and well, now it's 8-8.
Wait. So who won over here? Tennis Master just won against Micah Brattain. Tennis Master. So that's a point for Miami.
So 8-8.
Wow. So Miami can only maximum draw, and the one that's left for them,
it's over. No, it's 8-8.
Over.
Yeah, 8-8 finale. So really, just that means Mark Hyman, I guess. We hadn't seen him play in a while. He must have been the winner for Pittsburgh, and
that is disappointing for Miami. They needed that win, and but you know what? That might be enough. That actually might be enough, because if Montreal loses to Webster, that still pulls Miami above them into ranking number 6. Yeah, that's really all they need. There's no difference 5 or 6. They just need to get out of places 7 and 8. So now it's all on Montreal. How are they going to fare against Webster? Okay.
And I just pulled up the standings really quickly to emphasize your point. And Miami was tied with Montreal heading to this final round. Miami drew their match. Montreal currently down 5-7 as I pull back the live boards here. So we have Lequang Liem versus Saric. That game is the board 1 matchup, and somehow Lequang Liem lost his kingside pawns, but has a monstrous looking center. So even material for the time being. And I am fairly certain that you are going to like Black's position. I feel pretty confident with that assessment.
3-6, okay. Yeah, he's got the strong center. I think Black's got a satisfying position here. That's true. As long as the king is pretty safe and can always hang out on E7 and F8, I think that's okay. White can't castle, and White can't castle, has trouble casting queenside as well. So that's actually reassuring for Black. Right. Yeah. So I am happy with Black here. The rook on C8 is good. The knight on C4 is excellent. Knight takes B2 is already an idea. So I think Black is doing pretty well.
It looks like it to me. You can't do anything. B3 would be the move you really want to play. You can't do that with knight A3 threats. Like you said, casting queenside seems like the worst decision in the world. So looking good for Lequang Liem. I really didn't like his position several moves ago, but he simply said, I'm going to give a check, force this bishop back to D2, and then play queen B6. It's like, take the pawn if you'd like. I'm going to get my compensation in the form of the central pawn. So, all right, so that means Nizhnik versus Amon Hambleton. Amon Hambleton is the black pieces. And
ooh, he's really low on time.
Yeah. He also has less space, but if he can just consolidate in the next few moves, Black should be totally fine here. But the question is how to do so. This bishop on D2 is going to come to C3, and that's going to be the key to this position, is that this dark square bishop will be much, much better than the black dark square bishop, and it has at least a direct line of attack. So taking on F3, what is he thinking?
So he might just go queen F3.
Is he thinking of bishop F4? There's no way that can work. No, you can take it with check always. Okay, so queen F3.
That was a check. So queen F3 and bishop C3. Okay, that's a nice idea. Huh. Wow. Bishop C3, bishop E5. You can take and play rook E1, but probably Black will somehow neutralize in that end game.
Yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable, but I think you're right that Black should be able to get out. The worst looks behind Black at this point, but maybe, so rook H1 first. So saying if you go bishop to E5, you have a problem perhaps at some point with a move like bishop to B4, or maybe there's something even better. But
B4, that'll be probably C5.
And I was kind of inviting that move just to sort of open up more squares for the white pieces, but you're right, C5.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, fine. I'm not a fan of this move that he just made, because unless there was something wrong with bishop B5, I kind of wanted to go first bishop B5 and then bishop E6, because now there's bishop C3.
Oh, bishop c4 is not hanging because queen g4 is a double attack. Checkmate in one threatened. Bishop on c4 also threatened. That would be, of course, winning for white. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Bishop c3 here should be played. Maybe black is
borrowing your idea, Robert. I like the idea of that long diagonal, and this is the perfect time to do it.
Well, maybe bishop c3 would be met by a5. Is that a possibility? The idea being maybe I could trade on b4 or play b5 at some point.
This move. Oh, this must be wrong. I just can't believe in queen c3.
Whoa, yeah.
It's just not believable to me.
Whoa, is game drawn? Is that right?
Immediately a draw offer. Wow. So that means Nizhnik must have offered a draw. So why did Nizhnik offer a draw? Because he's trying to get Webster over the finish line.
And so,
I mean, maybe he thought they needed that half a point, and someone told them like, "Hey, it's time to make a draw." Who else is playing in that match? There's Hansen.
So Lequang Liem.
There's Banush and Lequang Liem. So I guess.
And there's the board 4 matchup
he likes
between.
Lequang's position. He's counting on him. I get it.
Right, and there's the board.
Right, but I don't know. Queen c3 was a bit of a lame move.
Oh, extremely lame. But
puzzled by that.
With 3 games remaining and only 1 point needed to take over first place in the standings. I don't like Tomas Banush's position very much. It looks like Eric Hansen is doing well in his second straight game. Maybe queen f6 for Banush is good here. But I did initially like the fact that white has so much space. Though queen f6 is a bit of a nuisance, hitting both the bishop on f4, the pawn on d4, and maybe white actually is a bit overextended now that I actually looked at the position, because queen f6.
Right, because on queen d6 bishop, on queen f6 bishop g3. Wait, can't we just play bishop g3, Robert?
You're right. You're absolutely correct.
There's no queen d4 because of bishop h4.
So, but bishop
There's
d4.
no bishop d4 because of bishop h4.
Well, yeah, it's probably just compensation, but not more than that. I mean, I guess bishop g2 ends that attack.
Right. So I guess that's the idea. So that game, I mean, anything can happen in Hansen versus Banush.
Yep.
And Lequang, well, we like his position. He's got the initiative, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those positions. Ooh, bishop f6. Interesting. Okay.
Is this going to end in a repetition after rook h6, bishop g5?
And getting greedy for black will not work out. If you play the move e takes d3, c takes d3, and go for some rook h6 stuff after bishop g5 and rook e6, saying, you know what, I'm going to attack your queen in the process, then save my rook. Queen h5 is, that's quite a bit of a problem here with the knight on c4 also under attack.
Queen g4. Whoa. Oh, I love it. Exchange, sack, and what is it? It's going to be a draw here. Well, he doesn't mind a draw. That's the thing. Or he's going to go rook g6. He doesn't. Yeah, there's no draw.
Yeah, the rook can always
block. He's going to
block.
go for the win. He's got an amazing attack. Look at that center.
So b3 here is what white should play.
Ooh, but like knight d2, does that even help out?
Oh, no. I'm not happy about that move. I was just trying to kind of mix things up a little bit, but knight d2 is coming with.
Yeah, I mean, look at what is interesting, Robert, is like when you're down in exchange, but the opponent's rooks just have no open files, like they're not really relevant at all.
Right. It's not even, in fact, like you're saying, the minor pieces are better. So it's almost like black is up a knight for a rook rather than white being up in exchange. It's a great way of phrasing that. So you're absolutely right here. With nowhere to go, the rooks are very much just kind of stuck here, and the knight can go to d2 and f3, and
yeah, I think his plan is simple. I think he just wants to go like rook g6 and threaten bishop g3 and knight d2 to f3. So look how he's definitely getting ahead on the clock. I think this is the game where they're going to get their point.
Right, and I'm going to check on the board 4 game between Talia Cervantes, she's Dishonor on your cow, against Maroon Tomb, or Tome, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but game over. Yeah. Game over, bro.
Yeah, it's funny that game, of course, is going to. It is an important game, and we can see. Well, black probably is doing fine. Black's doing well. I mean, you can't really get better from a King's Indian than that. This is actually a perfect King's Indian.
Yeah, you got
right.
You got to love the dark square domination by this knight on h5. The only thing missing from black's position is jumping this queen on a5 over to say h4. If that would be just, I mean, the most beautiful
Yeah,
positions.
the combination of the moves h3 and f3 rarely are very good in the King's Indian.
Right. And f3 is probably necessary to protect the e4 pawn, but you do not want to have both of these pawns on these squares because once you do that, you've given up every single dark square on the king side. So,
but this is good for Miami, isn't it? Montreal, I mean.
Yeah,
Montreal, because they do need that point from Maroon.
Yes, they need. I guess Toom is a great last name. I love it. I mean, you have a great last name for chess. Toom is a great last name for chess. This is awesome.
Yeah, I kind of prefer mine a bit. I would rather be called that than Tomb and thinking about being entombed.
Yeah, that's very true. So let's see. Did Sarich make a move? He went h5. What? Oh, okay. So he's kicking the rook from the g6 square if he goes back to g4, but you can just take a piece on d3, no?
Yeah, he can just go king h7. But I mean, White's desperate. That's why he's ready to give up the knight just to get rid of those pawns.
Yeah, it looks terrible. Nice knight e5. The minor pieces are just so much better than the rook in this position. Not to mention a lot of white pawns are hanging. So, yeah, it looks like Lequang Liam with the black pieces. And I don't remember how Sarich has been doing this year, but I don't think the answer is well enough.
He started out well at some point. I think, didn't he win a game against Carlsen?
Did he?
I think so.
Wow. Okay. Well then.
Let me check that. I feel like there was one game that Carlsen lost.
I know Carlsen lost to Spolman in.
Spolman. Okay. And now Sarich is playing for Montreal. I'm gonna actually look this up right now.
Okay.
Montreal, and how is Sarich been doing?
I'm just gonna pull up all remaining games because there aren't that many. Looks like we're really down to the wire here, and St. Louis is up 7.5, 6.5 over Buenos Aires, and that matchup, does it mean anything for the standings? That's what I'm going to be curious about in a second.
You were right, Robert. He only has 4 out of 8 going into today. And that's actually right under a 2,500 performance. It's not amazing for him, a 2660 player.
Right. And so he needs to somehow, some way, find something to salvage his game there, but it looks really bad. I have the game between Francesco Rambaldi up against Obregon. We've been a big fan of Obregon's today, but it looks like his position is not very good. He's down a pawn, an opposite colored bishop ending with rooks on the board, and the black king is not really so happy either. But maybe black can hold this somehow with the move king f8 coming, and the bishop gets to c5. There are definitely chances to draw this kind of position, but I mean, Francesco Rambaldi is the one playing for a win here.
So how are the St. Louis Archbishops doing? Wow, well, they're tied. They are tied, and I mean, yeah, it's not changing much for them. I mean, I would say, but they're. I mean, it didn't look like they were really going to be able to leap over Minnesota. But still, yeah, it's still an important match. I guess they would still like to get the point here. And Minnesota, Minnesota, since they lost, actually St. Louis, if they win, they can overtake them.
Well, so that would be, well, actually, I don't know.
They will overtake them on game points.
Yeah, and then they'd be the 3rd seed, and I guess it depends who you want to play. If you want to play Webster, you lose this game on purpose, which don't ever do. Never throw a chess game. But essentially my point is, if St. Louis loses, they become the 4th seed, and then they play the number 1 seed, which is going to be Webster after Webster wins this game with Lequang Liam here. And if you want to play Pittsburgh, who is the 2 seed, then you will want to win that game as, or at least, I guess they have to win the match to jump over Minnesota in the standings. So if that's the case.
Yeah, they got to win the match, exactly.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's enough for them to draw the match.
Oh, okay. Then in that case, just
because they are still going to overtake them by points, and they just need half a point here.
Well, they are up a pawn in a rook and opposite colored bishop ending. In fact, White is making some progress here with bishop e4 to d5, followed by pawn to b4.
But he's got 13 seconds. Yeah, he better not mess this one up because we've seen people do weird things with no time.
That's very true.
But mostly, of course, sometimes when they're grandmasters, but most often when they're not, right?
Yes.
Definitely a lot more mistakes. The lower rated players, can play very good games and outplay their opponents, but somehow when they get really low on time, you can see the difference more.
Yeah, people always ask me, what's the biggest difference between a grandmaster and say a 2200, 2300? And obviously some of it's just pure strength, but other of it is just how quickly you calculate. And if you gave every single player, unlimited time per moves, I think, for example, a 2650 Jim would do quite well in a match against, say, Magnus Carlsen even. Because yes, Magnus is the strongest player, but unlimited time, the strong grandmaster will be able to see almost everything in that time frame. So I think just how quickly you think, and that becomes especially true in rapid and blitz chess. And here, Rambaldi has created himself a pass pawn, not the pawn he wanted. He wanted to pass A pawn just because it's farther outside, but having the pass C pawn is still very good as the bishop finds itself. Oh, I guess
he has to go back to E4 and.
So get Rook B5 in, push the pawn to C4 first, exactly.
Yeah.
No, this is very difficult to defend. Irina, I would not be surprised if, now Bishop D5 wins the F7 pawn, so.
I was thinking he would go King D4 and maybe go up with the king, but okay. Bishop D5, so he's won himself a second pawn.
Yummy, yummy. Okay, but how do you use it?
King is cut, so it's not that easy to win.
So what?
Ooh,
wait, what?
What? He just gave up that pawn. He's like, I don't need that anymore.
He might flag at this point. He's not. Rook takes
that's
B4.
What I'm saying. Or maybe he's gonna get himself mated, but I mean, probably not. But just keep your pieces on light squares.
Okay, Rook B5, so Bishop B4. The bishop is no good discovery.
Funny. Oh, he better be careful here. I'm telling you, it's like he's got no time.
And he's worse.
Convincing. You can't lose. You cannot lose.
Rook A2 check.
He declined to draw. Black declined to draw. Black's playing for a win.
Let's go.
Buenos Aires needs that win. Because, well, not that it matters for them, but, they can spoil things for the St. Louis Archbishops. Okay, but that was a draw. So good news for St. Louis, who I think just overtook Minnesota, who had a bad day today, and they're overtaking them by game points.
Yeah, and I'm going to check out Lequang Liam here just to see how this match is going to end up. We have Eric Hansen versus Tomasz Banusz, and this game is also pretty wild between these players, where Hansen's king is pretty open, and Black has the two bishops. But there are some.
So Hansen, this has not worked out well for White, has it?
Well, this bishop's hanging.
Oh wait, F5 versus hanging.
So takes.
Oh, C3 is hanging. Okay, it looks fine for Black, right?
Yeah, it's pretty complicated.
Rook E3. Oh, Rook E3 is coming, and the rooks are kind of coming in. Okay, yeah, White's got the initiative.
Oh, I like that move, Rook E3. Of course, a very natural move, attacking the queen, throwing this rook into F3, and not to mention this rook on C8 is hanging because the queen on F5 is doing its damage from that post. So yeah, that looks really good, taking on F5 and Rook E3. And Eric Hansen has plenty of time. I'm going to jump back over to the Saric game. He's about to get mated, it looks like. Saric resigns.
Just in time. I just flipped to it, and just to see the mate and F2 coming.
Yeah, and here comes.
Going to be on H. The mate was actually on H1, Robert, right? Because Rook E2, Queen F3, King E1. The mate was going to come on H1.
Exactly. So that game is over. Lequang Liam does it for Webster, puts them over the top, 8.5. They are officially the winners of the Atlantic Division in the regular season of the Pro Chess League.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is a very smart team, I think. And I think that's what I've noticed about, like, Susan's teams, like in the Final Four. I mean, yeah, they definitely prepare. They definitely have a strategy. They think of the team, they're practical. And that's probably what we saw with Nizhnik's decision. And, it paid off because his teammate did pull through. And that means Montreal is, Montreal can be overtaken by Miami. Oh, wow. That's what's happening. That's big news, Robert. We do have news.
Yeah, I'm pulling the standings up really quickly. They're getting updated as the round's ending. You see that Miami is in the white territory.
Miami just pulled themselves past them. They were tied. Montreal had more game points, and Miami made a draw tonight. And Montreal is going down to Webster. So that means Montreal Chessbrahs are actually bottom two.
Yeah, they'll be relegated, and they will come back in full force. They lost Fabiano Caruana, they lost Li Chao this year, but next year, expect them to have some more strong names, and they're fan favorites. So if there's a fan vote, they of course will win it. If they're definitely qualifiers, they will have just as good a chance as any other team to qualify again, but a really disappointing finish for the Montreal Chessbrahs, and the last game is still underway here between, as I pull this back up, the last game underway between Eric Hansen and Tomas Banush. Actually, not the last game. I forgot about Talia Cervantes. It looks like Tomb.
Talia is still playing, right? And she's got no time at all.
Whoa, but she just found this knight d5 move, which looks like a nice tactical shot. I think, unfortunately, just rook takes b2 should be.
Or so there was queen h4 somewhere there. That was kind of nice looking. I think queen h4 was oh no, there. Yeah, the queen was on e1. Okay, never mind that.
Yeah, but now, so she's really trying to get active with
now queen h4. Can you go queen h4?
Probably.
Okay, same idea. Yeah. Just going to h4, queen h4, and so
there's no mate.
Saying? Oh, it's not mate, but there's some fork. Whoa.
The knight d3 check, like you said. Yeah, that is a big fork. And knight takes c1 with check. But yeah, that's great. Knight d3. Do it. You take the queen, or you take the rook with check. And
take the rook with check.
You force the trade of the queens in this case. Knights, if white wants the material back. So knight takes c1.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, why did he do? Okay, well, I guess black has a lot of extra pawns.
How many? I can't count. Too many.
3 of them.
All right, 3 extra pawns should do the trick. Let's see
how. Both of his pieces are trapped, Robert. I mean, and maybe the knight's not quite trapped because there's a3, but like it's funny because both of the pieces are trapped, so you got to be a little careful. I mean, knight e4 to to f2 or g3, and I wouldn't say it's like completely winning for black yet. It's not over.
Okay, that might not have been the best move because, like you said, just going to f2 was winning the bishop. But I guess the point is the bishop is going to be trapped regardless. So knight g4 coming to f2. And is white the one somehow playing for a win now? b5? Oh, can't go b5. c6 is hanging with check.
Yeah.
But b5, b4, b3.
King c5. Maybe just take on c4, or maybe go with the king to a2. Okay.
Yeah, king c5 was definitely a better option. Your black is going to have to take on f3 anyway, so king c5 would have just won that pawn.
Oh, black is doing fine. Yeah, black can't lose, but can black win? Well, he's got some chances, definitely. Probably good chances. I would say this is very difficult for white to defend,
And Eric Hansen is about to win, by the way. I just went back over the game as Tomas Banush. It looks like there's a mate on g7 coming, not to mention this rook on e8 is hanging as well. So Banush is going down. Eric Hansen with a great day, beating Lequang Liem, beating Tomas Banush. Both players very, very strong.
And beating Talia Cervantes. How did he do in his third game?
Eric Hansen, who is the third player? Nizhnik. I don't recall.
Nizhnik. Oh, yeah, that game. I kind of vaguely remember that. Oh,
Yeah, I wish I could tell you.
I don't remember. I'm not sure if we saw that one. Okay. But yeah, definitely a great night for Eric, and it's some kind of consolation to the Montreal team. I mean, it was a pretty close match. We have 2 winners tonight, Montclair and Webster. And we've got 2 draws, so very hard-fought matches. Pittsburgh can, I think, be happy. Pittsburgh maintains their spot as, they're number 2 because Pittsburgh drew and Webster passed them by winning.
Right.
Actually, Webster is back to the number 1 spot where they were for a while.
Okay,
and Pittsburgh finishes number 2. St. Louis Archbishops leapfrog over Minnesota. And Minnesota is the 4th team. So we're going to see Webster versus St. Louis. Wow.
Yeah. And this game is coming.
Isn't that funny, Robert? Just like that whole, turn around just so that the 2 teams from St. Louis can face off in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that's how that's happening. But as this last game here comes down to the wire, and black is now winning because if you see what's happening here, white is stuck over there on the king side with the king, and you can't actually win these pawns. Black can just promote to a queen and then bring the king all the way back. The king will journey backwards. And this is always the problem for everyone watching is, I'll go to the live game in a second. The king can never capture on g5 because that allows the enemy pawn to run. So king e3, king g5, h3, and the queen will get on the board. So instead, as I try to catch up, okay, king f2 resigns because take on h3, I get a queen. So this is all over. I'm going to get the standings up here in a sec. Let me do that. And it looks like, okay, as I pull them up, So Webster wins with 7.5, with 7.5, 1.5. Pittsburgh in second with 7-2. That is just incredible by Pittsburgh because they have one of those even lineups. They have Alex Shabalov, they have a Wonder Liang, but most of the time these players are between 23.50 and 25.50, give or take. And then you have the St. Louis Archbishops with 5.5 out of 9, which is they're underperformed, frankly. Fabiano Caruana is probably the MVP of the entire league, with the fact that I don't even know what his record was, but it was monstrous. And he's busy at the candidates, so he likely won't be back for the playoffs, which is sad for St. Louis fans. They'll have to make do with Fedoseev, Alejandro Ramirez, and the lineups that they've been choosing in that order. And so Webster plays Minnesota, who had a very horrendous, hopefully they got everything out of their system, Irina, because they were ahead of St. Louis and got obliterated by a Montclair team that really couldn't beat anyone for a large part of the season. So Webster versus Minnesota, Pittsburgh versus St. Louis, Pittsburgh and Webster with draws. Irina, I know it's putting you on the spot here. What are your predictions for the first round?
Right. So I kind of got confused there. So it's one is playing 4. So Webster is playing Minnesota. No, I got to say Webster has been really the top team all season, and I don't see that changing. I mean, they got a dominating record, 7.5 to 1.5. So I think, especially given this very dismal match for Minnesota, we got to say that Webster is a stronger team. Now, Pittsburgh versus St. Louis Archbishops. Pittsburgh was not like super impressive tonight, but they didn't have their best players. And really the question is, are they going to be back for next week? Right. And that's the thing. The next match, I believe, is on Tuesday, the 13th. I hope I got that one right, that piece of information. So it's actually not next Wednesday. It seems like it's on Tuesday, the 13th. Well, that's what it says in our schedule. And if a wonder is going to be done by then, let's see, when does this tournament actually end? The St. Louis Classic. It ends on the 14th. Oh, well, this is not good. That's the thing. These little details that seem like they're, out kind of pertaining to things outside of the league, but they actually make a big difference. Like the tournament is ending on the 14th, and so I'm not sure if a wonder can play on the 13th, right? I mean, it might be the day of his last round. Maybe he'll play anyway. I don't know. Maybe he can make it work. So I think what really is the big factor here is whether Pittsburgh is going to come into that match with a Wonder Liang and Alex Shabalov. And if they do, it's going to be close. And if not, I would probably say St. Louis certainly has every chance to overtake them. Yeah,
St. Louis is such a deep team as well. They have endless amount of grandmasters. St. Louis University players compete for them. Now, it's on Tuesday because it's an off day for the Candidates Tournament. If you don't know what the Candidates Tournament is, it's the event that decides who plays Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. Now, St. Louis is great. They have Fedoseev. They have Alejandro Ramirez, Rambaldi. They have Yaroslav Zherbuk. They have Dariush Swirch. Now, Dariush and Yaro are both playing in the same tournament, or the A section of the same tournament that a Wonder Liang is playing in. So, I can understand that they're busy, but what I guess in a way, this is going to be sad to say, Pittsburgh fans might be rooting against a Wonder Liang in his tournament. Say, hopefully the tournament, he's in last place, so he forgets about the tournament and plays well in plays for the Pro Chess League and plays well because they need him. There's no doubt about it. You can't field a lineup for Pittsburgh that doesn't have a Wonder Liang in the playoffs. It's just not you don't have enough GMs in their roster to do that. And so they need Shaba back. They need a Wonder Liang back. And their performance today was admirable. They had 4 IMs, I believe, and still tied a 3 GM lineup for Miami champions who had a formidable board 4 in Nicholas Rosenthal. Nicholas Rosenthal beat MVL last year, had plenty of upsets. He's clearly shown that he can play strong rapid chess. But I think St. Louis...
they were outrated by 100 points. So for them, 8-8 is an excellent result.
Right, and that's what they need next week as well. But, Irina, what I will say is St. Louis, despite their record, look how many game points they had. It's because Fabiano Caruana led the way, Yaro Zerbuk as well. Varuzhin Akobian is on the team. He's also playing in this St. Louis Classic, or whatever the name is. So I think with those players busy, perhaps Pittsburgh can get a favorable matchup in that one. And Minnesota, I think, is just totally...
because Caruana will not be able to play during the candidates.
Right. And I think Minnesota is going to have a tough time against Webster because Minnesota is a very even team. They have Tang, they have Mauricio Flores, they have Nagel, they have John Bartholomew, all of these players who are quite good. Yeah. But I think Webster in particular matches up quite well because they have Laquan Liam at the top, and they could put two other very, very strong grandmasters, and with Talia Cervantes on board 4. Or what they can do is put Laquan Liam, put Banush or Shimanov, one of these players there, and then put their strong 22, 2300s on the boards 3 and 4 and say, you know what, we're just going to rip you apart on the top boards, and our boards 3 and 4 will hold you with Joshua Colas or Grabinski.
Yeah, I would go for the top 3 strategy there.
I agree with you. I think that is the way to go.
How strong they are on those boards, I would say it's a worthwhile investment.
And I'm looking over to the Pacific Division just because that's what's coming up next. And there's really only 2 things to look out for. One is that the Rio Grande Ospreys can take over the Seattle Sluggers in terms of not being relegated. I don't think that's going to happen. But more importantly, if you look at the playoff standings, San Jose Hackers, 4.5, 3.5. And San Jose plays against San Diego. San Diego is tied for first with Chengdu for the lead in the division. So now San Jose needs to beat San Diego and hope that Australia loses to Rio Grande, or drawing is fine as long as they don't win. And the Dallas Destiny, if they lose to the Las Vegas Desert Rats, which is not going to happen because Las Vegas is fielding a team of like 23 something average, then perhaps San Jose has a chance. But for the moment, I can't believe it. A team with Mamedyarov, a team with Daniel Naroditsky, a team with Zviad Azuria. They're on the outside looking in at the moment. So that's what's up next here in the Pro Chess League.
Well, that's going to be a fascinating match between the San Jose and the Surfers, because we got some stars there like Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, Daniel Naroditsky, Zviad Azuria, Alexei Dreyev. I mean, a match with a lot of heavy hitters.
Yeah, and it's going to be epic to see that finale here on Chess.com/TV as well as Twitch.tv/chess. So I'm just waiting for the word when our next team is on because we deserve a little bit of break after all of our commentary here. But maybe I'll check the Twitch chat and things like that.
I have to say I love doing this commentary. Now, I recently was told by a mother of a top young player actually in the U.S. here in New York, and she, I don't think she's a chess player, and she said that she enjoyed our commentary.
Well,
that she was watching us on Chess.com, and she asked if it was tiring, how did it feel to do it, and I had to explain that this is very, very easy work.
It's fun. No, it's a lot. I love it
because it's just so wonderful. I mean, for a chess player, there's really a little better than just like looking at great players and talking about them with another great player. So
I'm honored that you call me a great player. So that's it means a lot to me here. But I agree with you completely. Doing commentaries are the most fun things I do. People ask me, how do you keep in shape if you're not studying, if you're not doing X, Y, and Z thing? And I say, well, I'll be doing commentary. You have to watch elite players play time and time again. And if you aren't in shape, and you're suggesting bad moves, you just look like a fool. So you want to keep your mind sharp, and it really helps to see players play week after week.
Yeah, so who do we have coming on next? Is it David and Alex Yermolinsky?
It's either David and Alex or likely Ben and David. I think Ben might be feeling better. He was unfortunately a bit ill last week.
Yeah, it seems like it's David and Ben that are scheduled.
All right, so then we'll get them coming on. They're just setting things up. We don't want to see a repeat of what happened earlier today when I had to take over for Lawrence Trent when technology went wrong, and all of a sudden I had to come in and go with Jen Shadi, whom I love dearly and had a great time doing commentary with her. But the last thing you want at the late night hour at the Pacific goes is to see kind of the equipment fail. And so we're still
Let's talk about the candidates. I mean, that's exciting, Robert. Coming up in just a few days, March 10th, right, is the first day of play, or maybe it's just a opening ceremony of that tournament?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think March 10th Saturday. If March 10th Saturday is the first round is on that day, and
Yeah, March 10th is a Saturday. Yeah.
yeah, so the first round is there, and I have to ask you. So I did a show with Yermo. We were talking
Yeah.
through our favorites and people we just don't think are at this moment in time going to have the best chance of winning the candidates. What is your prediction for that tournament? It's going to be epic. It's going to be long. It's going to be brutal. But who do you see going through to face Magnus?
Well, I just have to say Aronian.
Okay.
I mean, that's definitely the pick the match that I would be fascinated to see.
I'm totally with you. And I said to Yermo, Aronian is one of my favorite people. I've had nothing but great experience with him, and I've known him for a number of years, and we always get to hang out. And he's very knowledgeable about a vast array of different subjects, and he's a fantastic chess player. His opening preparation is phenomenal. His creativity at the board is arguably second to none. Of course, Magnus is Magnus, and you can't really, say that. Anyway, okay, Magnus is clearly the best player in the world, but the way that Levant thinks, when he has interviews afterwards, he's like, well, I could have went for the safe option with a slight advantage, but this looked attractive to me, so I went for it. He's just so imaginative, and so I love Aronian's chances, but what I will say is we've seen and said the same thing about Levant Aronian in the last couple candidates events. Oh, Levant is the favorite, he's in great form, and then he just disappoints. And I think now he's been on a stricter, I would assume, a stricter schedule in terms of getting into his tip-top physical shape.
Yeah.
He's recently married, which I believe will help him perhaps on the emotional side as well, because chess, you need everything clicking. And with every one of these top players is perhaps just as strong as the other. I mean, I don't see really a huge differential between a lot of these players. Yes, I would say that Aronian is stronger than, say, Dingley Ren, but it's not that different, and they can beat each other in any single game. So I would say
that he's actually going to be playing as kind of a local guy, right? Because he actually lived in Germany for many years. So that's kind of an interesting twist to it.
Exactly, yeah. And another sort of quote-unquote local guy is Krumnik. I mean, he may not have lived. I don't know if he's lived in Germany, but he's won Dortmund so many times that it might as well be his home, because he makes himself...
And he had a German manager, Carsten Hansen.
Right, exactly. So he's...
Many years.
And he was the wild card for the event for probably a combination of these reasons. So he'll be very comfortable. I think Mamedyarov, who's a fantastic player, and I'm a big supporter of his chess, I think that he's a little bit too wild. I think he can't tame it down. There's no way to say, okay, become more like Wesley So, who is like the epitome of calm, right? Like that guy is just like, zen. And so I think that there needs to be a kind of combination. If they could merge their talents, I think they would become a better player.
Like Wesley So and Mamedyarov merging.
Exactly. I think that if that were the case, that'd be good. So, okay, just to wrap up here as the other team's coming on, I'll say that Aronian is my favorite. I think Grishuk is my dark horse. Everyone overlooks him. He's not quite as highly rated as some of the other players, but I think he matches up very well with Carlsen. And with that note, Irina, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed doing the commentary, but our time is up, and we will say hi to David and Ben. So everyone stay and watch the finale of the regular season of the Pro Chess League. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.